All right, folks, welcome back to another Quarantine Theater Company table read. Today, we are reading the 1977 masterpiece Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, with the other two films of the original trilogy to be followed week by week. I am your host, Curtis. I'll be reading the roles of Darth Vader, Chewie, Jabba the Hutt, and some other background roles. We got Luke Skywalker, we got Logan, C3PO, we got George as Grand Moff Tarkin, we got Travis. He'll also be playing Biggs as Leia, and Aunt Beru. We got Molly as our action description, our narrator today. We got Rudy as Han Solo. We got Hunter as Obi-Wan Kenobi, or as we call him, Colby-Wan Kenobi. We got Colby. And as Uncle Owen and Wedge Antilles, we got Anne. So, introductions out of the way. With that in mind, Rudy, you could start us off.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, a vast sea of stars serves as the backdrop for the main title. War drums echo through the heavens as a roll-up slowly crawls. Period of civil war. Rebel spaceships striking from a hidden base have won their first victory against the evil galactic empire. During the battle, rebel spies secret plans. The Empire's ultimate weapon, an armored space station with enough power to destroy an entire planet. Pursued by the Empire's sinister agents, Princess Leia breaks home upon the plan that can save her people and restore freedom. The awesome yellow planet of Tatooine emerges from a total eclipse. Her two moons glowing against the darkness. A tiny silver spacecraft, a rebel blockade runner, firing lasers from the back of the ship, races through space. It is pursued by a giant Imperial Star Destroyer. Hundreds of deadly laser bolts streak from the Imperial Star Destroyer, causing the main solar fin of the rebel craft to disintegrate. Interior, rebel blockade runner, main passageway. An explosion rocks the ship as two robots, R2-D2 and C3PO, struggle to make their way through the shaking, bouncing passageway. Both robots are old and battered. R2 is a short, claw-armed tripod. His face is a mass of computer lights surrounding a radar eye. 3PO, on the other hand, is a tall, slender robot of human proportions. He has a gleaming bronze-like metallic surface of an R2 Deco design. Another blast shakes them as they struggle along their way.
Did you hear that? They've shut down the main reactor. We'll be destroyed for sure. This is madness.
Rebel troopers rush past the robots and take up positions in the main passageway. They arm their weapons toward the door.
We're doomed.
The little R2 unit makes a series of electronic sounds that only another robot could understand.
There'll be no escape for the princess this time.
R2 continues making beeping sounds. Tension mounts as loud metallic latches clank, and the scream of heavy equipment are heard moving around the outside hull of the ship.
What's that?
The exterior spacecraft in space. The Imperial craft has easily overtaken the Rebel blockade runner. The smaller Rebel ship is being drawn into the underside dock of the giant Imperial starship. The interior Rebel blockade runner. The nervous Rebel troopers aim their weapons, only suddenly a tremendous blast opens up a hole in the main passageway, and a score of fearsome armored space-suited stormtroopers make their way into the smoke-filled corridor. In a few minutes, the entire passageway is ablaze with laser fire. The deadly bolts ricochet in wild random patterns, creating huge explosions. Stormtroopers scatter and duck behind storage lockers. Laser bolts hit several rebel soldiers who scream and stagger through the smoke. holding shattered arms and faces. An explosion hits near the robots.
I should have known better than to trust the logic of a half-sized thermocapsulary dehousing assister.
R2 counters with an angry rebuttal as the battle rages around the two hapless robots. The exterior, Tatooine, desert wasteland, day. A death-white wasteland stretches from horizon to horizon. The tremendous of two twin suns settle on a lone figure, Luke Skywalker, a farm boy with heroic aspirations who looks much younger than his 18 years. His shaggy hair and baggy tunic give him the air of a simple but lovable lad with a prize-winning smile. A light wind whips at him as he adjusts several valves on a large battered moisture evaporator, which sticks out of the desert floor much like an oil pipe with valves. He is aided by a beat-up tread robot with 6-claw arms. The little robot appears to be barely functioning and moves with jerky motions. A bright sparkle in the morning sky catches Luke's eye, and he instinctively grabs a pair of electro binoculars from his utility belt. He stands transfixed for a few moments studying the heavens, then dashed toward his dented, crudely repaired land speeder, an auto-like transport that travels a few feet above the ground on a magnetic field. He motions for the tiny robot to follow him.
Hurry up! Come with me! What are you waiting for? Get in already!
The robot scoots around in a tight circle, stops short, and smoke begins to pour out of every joint. Luke throws his arms up in disgust. Exasperated, the young farm boy jumps into his land speeder, leaving the smoldering robot to hum madly. Interior, Rebel blockade runner, main hallway. The awesome 7-foot-tall Dark Lord of the Sith makes his way into the blinding light of the main passageway. This is Darth Vader, right hand of the Emperor. His face is obscured by his flowing black robes and grotesque breath mask, which stands out next to the fascist white armored suits of the Imperial stormtroopers. Everyone instinctively backs away from the imposing warrior, and a deathly quiet sweeps through the rebel troops. Several of the rebel troops break and run in a frenzied panic. The interior rebel blockade runner, a woman's hand put a card into an opening in R2's dome. R2 makes beeping sounds. Interior rebel blockade runner 3PO stands in a hallway, somewhat bewildered. R2 is nowhere in sight. The pitiful screams of the doomed rebel soldiers can be heard in the distance.
R2, R2-D2, where are you?
A familiar clanking sound attacks 3PO's attention, and he spots little R2 at the end of the hallway in a smoke-filled alcove. A beautiful young girl, about 16 years old, stands in front of R2. Surreal and out of place, dreamlike and half hidden in the smoke, she finishes adjusting something on R2's computer face, then watches as the little robot joins his companion.
At last, where have you been?
Stormtroopers can be heard battling in the distance.
They're heading in this direction. What are we going to do? We'll be sent to the spice mine of Kessel or smashed into who knows what.
R2 scoots past his bronze friend and races down the sub-hallway. 3PO chases after him.
Wait a minute, where are you going?
R2 responds with electronic beeps. Interior Rebel blockade runner corridor. The evil Darth Vader stands amid the broken and twisted bodies of his foes. He grabs a wounded Rebel officer by the neck as an Imperial officer rushes up to the Dark Lord.
Death Star plans are not in the main computer.
Vader squeezes the neck of the Rebel officer who struggles in vain.
Where are those transmissions you've intercepted?
Vader lifts the Rebel off his feet by his throat.
What have you done with those plans?
We intercept no transmissions. This is where on a diplomatic mission. Diplomatic mission.
If this is a consular ship, where is the ambassador?
The Rebel refuses to speak, but eventually cries out as the Dark Lord begins to squeeze the officer. The soldier goes limp. Vader tosses the dead soldier against the wall and turns it to his troops.
Tear this ship apart until you found those plans. Bring me the ambassador, or want her alive.
The stormtroopers scurry into the sub-hallways. The interior Rebel blockade runner sub-hallway, the lovely young girl huddles in a small alcove as the stormtroopers search through the ship. She is Princess Leia Organa, a member of the Alderaan Senate. The fear in her eyes slowly gives way to anger as the muted, crushing sounds of the approaching stormtroopers grows louder. One of the troopers spots her.
There she is. Set for stun.
Leia steps from her hiding place and blasts the trooper with her laser pistol. She starts to run, but is felled by a paralyzing ray. The troopers inspect her inert body.
They'll be all right. Inform Lord Vader we have a prisoner.
The interior rebel blockade runner sub-hallway R2 stops before the small hatch of an emergency life pod. He snaps the seal on the main latch and a red warning light begins to flash. The stubby Astro robot works his way into the cramped 4-man pod.
Hey, you're not permitted in there. It's restricted. You'll be deactivated for sure.
R2 beeps something to him.
Don't call me a mindless philosopher, you overweight glob of grease. Now come out here before somebody sees you.
R2 whistles something at his reluctant friend regarding the mission he is about to perform.
Secret mission? What plans? What are you talking about? I'm not getting in there.
R2 isn't happy with 3PO's stubbornness, and he beeps and twangs angrily. A new explosion, this time very close, sends dust and debris through the narrow sub-hallway. Flames lick at 3PO, and after a flurry of electronic swearing from R2, the lanky robot jumps into the life pod.
I'm going to regret this.
Interior Imperial Star Destroyer. On the main view screen, the life pod carrying the 2 terrified robots speeds away from the stricken rebel spacecraft.
There goes another one.
Hold your fire. There are no life forms. It must have been short-circuited.
Interior life pod R2 and 3PO look out at the receding Imperial starship. Stars circle as the pod rotates through the galaxy.
That's funny. The damage doesn't look as bad from out here.
R2 beeps in a assuring response.
Are you sure this thing's safe?
Exterior Tatooine, Anchorhead Settlement, Power Station Day. Heat wave radiates from the dozen or so bleached white buildings. Luke pilots the land speeder through the dusty, empty street of the tiny settlement. An old woman runs to get out of the way of the speeding vehicle, shaking her fist at Luke as he flies past.
I told you kids to slow down.
Interior Power Station Day. Luke burst into the power station, waking the fixer, a rugged mechanic, and Cammy, a sexy, disheveled girl who has been asleep in his lap. They grumble as he races through the office, yelling wildly.
Did I hear a young noise blast through here?
It was just worming on another rampage.
Luke bounces into a small room behind the office where Deke, Wendy, 2 tough boys about the same age as Luke, are playing a computer pool-like game with Biggs, a burly, handsome boy a few years older than the rest. He splashy city attire is a sharp contrast to the loose-fitting tunics of the farm boys. A robot repairs some equipment in the background.
Jay, what up, you guys? Biggs!
Luke's surprise at the appearance of Biggs gives way to great joy and emotion. They give each other a great bear hug.
You were back! When'd you get in?
Just now, I wanted to surprise you, hotshot. I thought you'd be here. Certainly, I didn't expect you to be out working. Haha.
Well, the academy didn't change much, but you're back so soon. Hey, what happened? Did you get your commission?
Biggs has an air of cool that seems slightly phony.
Of course I got it. Signed aboard the Rand Elliptic last week. First mate Biggs, Dark Lighter, at your service. I just came to say goodbye to all of you. Unfortunate landlocked simpletons.
Everyone laughs. The dazzling spectacle of his dashing friend is almost too much for Luke, but suddenly he snaps out of it.
I almost forgot. There's a battle going on. Right here in our system. Come and look.
Not again. Forget it.
Exterior Tatooine, Anchorhead Settlement Power Station Day. The group stumbles out into the stifling desert sun. Cammy and the Fixer complain and are forced to shade their eyes. Luke has his binoculars out scanning the heavens.
There they are!
Biggs takes the binoculars from Luke as the others strain to see something with the naked eye. Through the binoculars, Biggs sees two small silver specks.
That's no battle hot shot. They're just sitting there. Probably a freighter tanker refueling.
There was a lot of firing earlier.
Cammy grabs the binoculars away, banging them against the building in the process. Luke grabs them.
Hey, easy with those.
Don't worry about it, Wormy.
The Fixer gives Luke a hard look, and the young farm boy shrugs his shoulders in resignation.
I keep telling you, the rebellion's a long way from here. I doubted the Empire would even fight to keep this system. Believe me, Luke, this planet is a big hunk of nothing.
Luke agrees, although it's obvious he isn't sure why. The group stumbles back into the power station, grumbling about Luke's ineptitude. The interior rebel blockade runner hallway. Princess Leia is led down a low-ceilinged hallway by a squad of armored stormtroopers. Her hands are bound, and she is brutally shoved when she is unable to keep up with the briskly marching troops. They stop in a smoky hallway as Darth Vader emerges from the shadows. The sinister Dark Lord stares hard at the frail young senator, but she doesn't move.
Lord Vader, I should have known. Only you would be so bold. The Imperial Senate will not sit for this. When they hear you've attacked a diplomatic...
Won't play games with me, Your Highness. You're on any mercy mission this time. You passed directly to a restricted system. Several transmissions were beamed to the ship by rebel spies. I want to know what happened to the plans they sent you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a member of the Imperial Senate on a diplomatic mission to Alderaan.
You're part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
Leia is marched away down the hallway and into the smoldering hole blasted in the side of the ship. An Imperial commander turns to Vader.
Holding her is dangerous. If word gets out of this, it could generate sympathy for the rebellion in the Senate.
I've traced rebel spies to her. Now she was my only link to find her secret base.
She'll die before she tells you anything.
Leave that to me. Send a distress signal and then inform the Senate that all aboard were killed.
Another Imperial officer approaches Vader and the commander. They stop and snap to attention.
Lord Vader, the battle station plans not aboard this ship, and no transmissions were made. An escape pod was jettisoned during the fighting, but no life forms were aboard.
Vader turns to the commander.
You must have hidden the plans in the escape pod. Send a detachment down to retrieve them. See to it personally, Commander. There'll be no one to stop us this time.
Yes, sir.
Exterior space. The Imperial Star Destroyer comes over the surface of the planet Tatooine. The exterior Tatooine desert. Junland, or No Man's Land, where the rugged desert mesas meet the foreboding Dune Sea. The two helpless astro droids kick up clouds of sand as they leave the life pod and clumsily work their way across the desert wasteland. The life pod in the distance rests half buried in the sand.
How did I get into this mess? I really don't know how. We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
R2 answers with beeping sounds.
I've got to rest before I fall apart. My joints are almost frozen.
R2 continues to respond with beeping sounds.
What a desolate place this is.
Suddenly, R2 whistles, makes a sharp right turn, and starts off in the direction of the rocky desert mesas. 3PO stops and yells at him.
Where are you going?
A stream of electronic noises pours forth from the small robot.
Well, I'm not going that way. It's much too rocky. This way is much easier.
R2 counters with a long whistle.
What makes you think there are settlements over there?
R2 continues to make beeping sounds.
Don't get technical with me.
R2 continues to make beeping sounds.
What mission? What are you talking about? I've had just about enough of you. Go that way. You'll be malfunctioning within a day, you nearsighted scrap pile.
3PO gives the little robot a kick and starts off in the direction of the vast Dune Sea.
And don't let me catch you following me begging for help, because you won't get it.
R2's reply is a rather rude sound. He turns and trudges off in the direction of the towering mesa.
No more adventures. I'm not going that way.
R2 beeps to himself as he makes his way toward the distant mountains. The exterior Tatooine Dune Sea. 3PO, hot and tired, struggles over the ridge of a dune, only to find more dunes, which seems to go on for endless miles. He looks back in the direction of the now distant rock mesas.
That malfunctioning little twerp. This is all his fault. He tricked me into going this way, but he'll do no better.
In a huff of anger and frustration, 3PO knocks the sand from his joints. His plight seems hopeless when a glint of reflected light in the distance reveals an object moving towards him.
Wait, what's that? A transport. I'm saved.
The bronze android waves frantically and yells at the approaching transport.
Over here! Help! Please help!
Exterior Tatooine Anchorhead Settlement Power Station Day. Luke and Biggs are walking and drinking a malt brew. Fixer and the others can be heard working outside.
So I cut off my power, shut down the afterburners, and came in low on Deke's trail. I was so close, I thought I was going to fry my instruments. And as I busted up my skycropper, pretty bad, Uncle Owen he's pretty upset. He grounded me for the rest of the season. I should have been there. It was fantastic.
You ought to take it easy, Luke. You may be the hottest bush pilot this side of most easily, but those little skyhoppers are dangerous. Keep it up, and one day, whammo, you're going to be nothing more than a dark spot on the downside of a canyon wall.
Who's talking? Now that you went around those giant starships, you're beginning to sound like my uncle. I'm soft in the city.
I've missed you, kid.
Yeah, well, things haven't been the same since you left, Biggs. It's been so quiet.
Biggs looks around, then leans close to Luke.
Luke, I didn't come back just to say goodbye. I shouldn't tell you this, but you're the only one I can trust, and if I don't come back, I want somebody to know.
Luke's eyes are wide with Biggs' seriousness and loyalty.
What are you talking about?
I made some friends at the academy. When our frigate goes to one of the central systems, we're going to jump ship and join the Alliance.
Luke, amazed and stunned, is almost speechless.
Did you join the rebellion? Are you kidding? How?
Quiet down, will ya? You got a mouth bigger than a meteor crater.
I'm sorry, I'm quiet. Listen how quiet I am. You can barely hear me.
Biggs shakes his head angrily and then continues.
My friend has a friend on Bestine who might help us make contact.
Oh, you're crazy. You can wander around forever trying to find them.
I know it's a long shot, but if I don't find them, I'll do what I can on my own. It's what we always talked about. Luke, I'm not going to wait for the Empire to draft me into service. The rebellion is spreading, and I want to be on the right side, the side I believe in.
I'm stuck here.
I thought you were going to the academy next term. You'll get your chance. Get off this rock. Off this rock.
Not likely. I had to cancel my application. There's been a lot of unrest among the Sand people since you left. They've been raided by the outskirts of. They've even raided the outskirts of Anchorhead.
Your uncle could hold off a colony of Sand people with one blaster.
I know, but he's got enough vaporators going to make the place pay off. He didn't do for just one more season. I can't leave him.
I feel for you, Luke. You're going to have to learn what seems to be important or what really is important. What good is all your uncle's work if it's taken over by the Empire? You know, they're starting to nationalize commerce in the central system. It won't be long before your uncle is merely a tenant slaving for the greater glory of the Empire.
It couldn't happen here. I mean, you said it yourself. The Empire wouldn't bother with this rock.
Things always change.
Look, I wish I was going. Are you going to be around long?
No, I'm leaving in the morning.
Well, I guess I won't see you.
Maybe someday. I'll keep a lookout.
Well, look, I'll be at the Academy next season. After that, who knows? I will be drafted by the Imperial Starfleet, that's for sure. Well, just take care of yourself. I'll always be the best friend I've got.
So long, Luke.
Biggs turns away from his old friend and heads towards the power station. The exterior, Tatooine Rock Canyon sunset. The gargantuan rock formations are shrouded in a strange foreboding mist, and the ominous sounds of unearthly creatures fill the air. R2 moves cautiously through the creepy rock canyon, inadvertently making a loud clicking noise as he goes. He hears a distant, hard, metallic sound and stops for a moment. Convinced he is alone, he continues on his way. In the distance, a pebble tumbles down the steep canyon wall, and a small dark figure darts into the shadows. A little further in the canyon, a slight flicker of light reveals a pair of eyes in the dark recesses only a few feet from the narrow path. The unsuspecting robot waddles along the rugged trail until suddenly, out of nowhere, a powerful magnetic ray shoots out of the rocks and engulfs him in an eerie glow. He manages one short electronic squeak before he topples over onto his back. His bright computer light flickers off, then on, then off again. Out of the rocks scurry three Jawas, no one taller than R2. They holster strange and complex weapons, and they cautiously approach the robot. They wear grubby cloaks, and their faces are shrouded now so only their glowing eyes can be seen. They hiss and make odd guttural sounds as they heave in the heavy robot onto their shoulders and carry him off down the trail. Exterior Tatooine, Rock Canyon, Sand Crawler, Sunset. The 8 Jawas carry R2 out of the canyon to a huge tank-like vehicle the size of a 4-story house. They weld a small disc on the side of R2 and then put him under a large tube on the side of the vehicle, and the little robot is sucked into the giant machine. The filthy little Jawas scurry like rats up small ladders and enter the main cabin of the behemoth transport. Interior Sandcrawler hold area. It is dim inside the hold area of the Sandcrawler. R2 switches on a small floodlight on his forehead and stumbles around the scrap heap. The narrow beam swings across rusty metal rocket parts and an array of grotesquely twisted and maimed astro robots. He lets out a pathetic electronic whimper and stumbles off toward what appears to be a door at the end of the chamber. Interior Sandcrawler prison area. R2 enters a wide room with a 4-foot ceiling. In the middle of the scrap heap sit a dozen or so robots of various shapes and sizes. Some are engaged in electronic conversation, while others simply mill about. A voice of recognition calls out from the gloom.
R2-D2, it's you, it's you.
The battered 3PO scrambles up to R2 and embraces him. The exterior Tatooine, Rock Canyon, Sandcrawler, Sunset, the enormous Sandcrawler lumbers off toward the magnificent twin suns, which are slowly setting over a distant mountain ridge. Exterior Tatooine, Desert Day, 4 Imperial stormtroopers mill about in front of the half-buried life pod that brought R2 and 3PO to Tatooine. A trooper yells to an officer some distance away.
Someone was in the pod. The tracks go off in this direction.
A second trooper picks a small bit of metal out of the sand and gives it to the first trooper.
Look, sir, droids.
Exterior Tatooine dunes. The Sandcrawler moves slowly down a great sand dune. Interior Sandcrawler, 3PO and R2 noisily bounce along inside the cramped prison chamber. R2 appears to be shut off.
Wake up! Wake up!
Suddenly, the shaking and bouncing of Sandcrawler stops, creating quite a commotion among the mechanical men. 3PO's fists bang the head of R2, whose computer lights pop on as he begins beeping. At the far end of the long chamber, a hatch opens, filing the chamber, filling it with blinding white light. A dozen or so Jawas make their way through the odd assortment of robots.
We're doomed.
A Jawa starts moving toward them.
You think they'll melt us down?
R2 responds, making beeping sounds.
Don't shoot, will this never end?
Exterior Tatooine Desert, Lars homestead, afternoon. The Jawas mutter gibberish as they busily light up their battered captives, including R2 and 3PO, in front of the enormous Sandcrawler, which is parked beside a small homestead consisting of 3 large holes in the ground, surrounded by several tall moisture evaporators and 1 small adobe block house. The Jawas scurry around, fussing over the robots, straightening them up or dusting them off from a dented metallic elbow. The shrouded little creatures smell horribly, attracting small insects to the dark areas when their mouths and nostrils should be. Out of the shadows of a dingy side building limps Owen Lars, a large, burly man in his mid-50s. His reddish eyes are sunken in a dust-covered face. As the farmer carefully inspects each robot, he is closely followed by his slumped-shouldered nephew, Luke Skywalker. One of the vile little Jawas walks ahead of the farmer, spouting an animated sales pitch in a queer, unintelligible language. A voice calls out from one of the huge holes that form the homestead. Luke goes over to the edge and sees his Aunt Beru standing in the main courtyard.
Luke, tell Owen if he gets a translator, be sure it speaks Bachi.
We don't look like we have much of a choice, but I'll remind him.
Luke returns to his uncle as they look over the equipment for sale with the Jawa leader.
I have no need for a protocol droid.
Sir, not in an environment such as this. That's why I've also been programmed for over 30 secondary functions that...
What I really need is a droid that understands the binary language of moisture evaporators.
Evaporators, sir. My first job was programming binary load lifters, very similar to your evaporators. You could say...
Do you speak Bachi?
Of course I can, sir. It's like a second language for me. I'm as fluent in Bachi.
All right, shut up. I'll take this one.
Shutting up, sir.
Luke, take these two over to the garage, will you? I want you to have both of them cleaned up before dinner.
I'm also going to go to the Tachi stand and get some power converters.
You can waste time with your friends when your chores are done. Now, come on, get to it.
All right, come on. And the red one. Come on. Well, come on, Red, let's go.
As the Jawas start to lead the three remaining robots back into the sandcrawler, R2 lets out a pathetic little beep and starts after his old friend 3PO. He is restrained by a slimy Jawa who zaps him with the control box. Owen is negotiating with the head Jawa. Luke and the two robots start off for the garage when a plate pops off the head of the red Astro droid's head plate and it sparks wildly.
Uncle Owen,
Yeah?
this R2 unit has a bad motivator, look.
Hey, what are you trying to push on us?
The Jawa goes into a loud spiel. Meanwhile, R2 is sneaked out the line and is moving up and down, trying to attract attention. He lets out a low whistle. 3PO taps Luke on the shoulder.
Excuse me, sir, but that R2 unit is in prime condition. A real bargain.
Uncle Owen,
Yeah.
what about that one?
What about that one? The blue one. We'll take that one.
With a little reluctance, the scruffy dwarf trades the damaged Astro droid for R2.
Yeah, take it away.
I'm quite sure you'll be very pleased with that one, sir. He really is in first-class condition. I've worked with him before. Here he comes.
Owen pays off the whining Jawa as Luke and the two robots trudge off toward a grimy homestead entry.
Okay, let's go.
Now, don't you forget this. Why I should stick my neck out for you is quite beyond my capacity.
Interior Lars homestead garage area, late afternoon. The garage is cluttered and worn, but a friendly, peaceful atmosphere permeates the low-grade chamber. 3PO lowers himself into a large tub filled with warm oil. Near the battered land speeder, little R2 rests on a large battery with a cord to his face.
Thank the maker. This oil bath is going to feel so good. I've got such a bad case of dust contamination I can barely move.
R2 beeps a muffled reply. Luke seems to be lost in thought as he runs his hand over the damaged fin of a small two-man Skyhopper spaceship, resting in a low hangar off the garage. Finally, Luke's frustrations get the better of him and he slams a wrench across the workbench.
This isn't fair. Well, Biggs is right. They're going to get out of here.
Is there anything I might do to help?
Luke glances at the battered robot, a bit of his anger drains, and a tiny smile creeps across his face.
Not unless you can alter time, speed up the harvest, or teleport me off this rock.
I don't think so, sir. I'm only a droid, not very knowledgeable about such things. Not on this planet, anyways. As a matter of fact, I'm not even sure which planet I'm on.
Well, if there's a bright center of the universe, you're at the planet that's farthest from it.
I see, sir.
And you can call me Luke.
I see, Sir Luke.
Just Luke.
I am C-3PO, Human-Cyborg Relations, and this is my counterpart, R2-D2.
Hello.
R2 beeps in response. Luke unplugs R2 and begins to grab several connectors on the robot's head with a chrome pick. 3PO climbs out of the oil tub and begins wiping oil from his bronze arm.
You got a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
With all we've been through, sometimes I'm amazed we're in as good condition as we are, what with the rebellion and all.
You know of the rebellion against the Empire?
That's how we came to be in your service, if you take my meaning, sir.
Have you been in any battles?
Several, I think. Actually, there's not much to tell. I'm not much more than an interpreter and not very good at telling stories. Well, not in making them interesting anyways.
Luke struggles to remove a small metal fragment from R2's neck joint. He uses a larger pick.
Well, my little friend, you got something jammed in here real good. You want a cruiser or a...
The fragment breaks loose with a snap, sending Luke tumbling head over heels. He sits up and sees a 12-inch, three-dimensional hologram of Leia Organa, the rebel senator, being projected from the face of little R2. The image is a rainbow of colors as it flickers and jiggles in the dimly lit garage. Luke's mouth opens in awe.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
What's this?
R2 looks around and sheepishly beeps an answer for 3PO to translate. Leia continues to repeat the sentence fragment over and over.
What is what? He asked you a question. What is that?
R2 whistles his surprise as he pretends to just notice the hologram. He looks around and sheepishly beeps an answer for 3PO to translate. Leia continues to repeat the sentence fragment over and over.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Oh, he says it's nothing, sir. Merely a malfunction. Old data. Pay it no mind.
Luke becomes intrigued by the beautiful girl.
Who is she? She's beautiful.
I'm afraid I'm not quite sure, sir.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I think she was a passenger on our last voyage. A person of some importance, sir, I believe. Our captain was attached to...
Is there more to the recording?
Luke reaches out for R2, but he lets out several frantic squeaks and a whistle.
Behave yourself, R2. You're going to get us all in trouble. It's all right. You can trust him. He's our new master.
R2 whistles and beeps a long message to 3PO.
He says he's the property of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a resident of these parts, and it's a private message for him. Quite frankly, sir, I don't know what he's talking about. Our last master was Captain Antilles, but with what we've been through, this little R2 unit has become a bit eccentric.
Obi-Wan Kenobi? I wonder if he's old Ben Kenobi.
I beg your pardon, sir, but do you know what he's talking about?
Well, I don't know anyone named Obi-Wan, but old Ben lives out beyond the Toonsea. He's kind of a strange old hermit.
Luke gazes at the beautiful young princess for a few moments.
I wonder who she is. Sounds like she's in trouble. I better play back the whole thing.
R2 beeps something to 3PO.
He says the restraining bolt has short-circuited his recording system. He suggests that if you remove the bolt, he might be able to play back the entire recording.
Luke looks longingly at the lovely little princess and hasn't really heard what 3PO has been saying.
Huh? Oh, yeah. At least you're too small to run away on me if I take this off. Okay.
Takes a wedged bar and pops up the restraining bolt off R2's side.
There you go.
The princess immediately disappears.
Well, wait a minute. Where'd you go? Bring her back. Play back the entire message.
R2 beeps an innocent reply as 3PO sits up in embarrassment.
What message? The one you're carrying inside your rusty innards.
A woman's voice calls out from another room.
Luke! Luke! Come to dinner!
Luke stands up and shakes his head at the malfunctioning robot.
All right. I'll be right there, Aunt Beru.
I'm sorry, sir, but he appears to have picked up a slight flutter.
Luke tosses R2's restraining bolt on the workbench and hurries out of the room.
Well, see what you can do with him. I'll be right back.
Just you reconsider playing that message for him.
R2 beeps in response.
No, I don't think he likes you at all.
R2 beeps.
No, I don't like you either.
Interior Lars homestead dining area. Luke's Aunt Beru, a warm, motherly woman. fills a pitcher with blue fluid from a refrigerated container in the well-used kitchen. She puts the pitcher on a tray with some bowls of food and starts for the dining area. Luke sits with his Uncle Owen before a table covered with steaming bowls of food as Aunt Beru carries in a bowl of red grain.
I think that our R2 unit we bought might have been stolen.
What makes you think that?
Well, I stumbled across a recording while I was cleaning him. He says he belonged to someone called Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Owen is greatly alarmed at the mention of his name, but manages to control himself.
I thought he might be talking about old Ben. Do you know what he's talking about? Well,
That old man.
I wonder if he's related to Ben.
That old man's just a crazy old wizard. Tomorrow I want you to take that R2 unit into Anchorhead and have its memory flushed, and that'll be the end of that. It belongs to us now.
What if this Obi-Wan comes looking for him?
He won't. I don't think he exists anymore. He died about the same time as your father.
Wait, he knew my father?
I told you to forget it. Your only concern is to prepare that new droid for tomorrow. In the morning, I want them on the South Ridge working out those condensers.
Yes, sir. Look, I think the new droids are going to work out fine. In fact, I was also looking about our agreement about me staying on for another season. And if those new droids do work out, I want to transmit my application to the Academy this year.
Owen's face becomes a scowl, although he tries to suppress it.
You mean the next semester before the harvest?
Sure, there's more than enough droids.
Harvest is when I need you the most. Only one more season. This year we'll make enough on the harvest so I'll be able to hire some more hands. And then you can go to the Academy next year.
Luke continues to toy with his food, not looking at his uncle.
You must understand, I need you here, Luke.
A whole other year.
Look, it's only one more season.
Luke pushes his half-eaten plate of food aside and stands.
Yeah, that's what he said last year when Biggs and Tank left.
Where are you going?
Look, it looks like I'm going nowhere. I gotta finish cleaning those droids.
Resigned to his fate, Luke paddles out of the room. Owen mechanically finishes his dinner.
Owen, he can't stay here forever. Most of his friends have gone. It means so much to him.
I'll make it up to him next year. I promise.
Luke's just not a farmer, Owen. He has too much of his father in him.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Exterior Tatooine, Lars homestead. The giant twin suns of Tatooine slowly disappear behind a distant dune range. Luke stands watching them for a few moments, then reluctantly enters the doomed entrance to the homestead. Interior Lars homestead garage. Luke enters the garage to discover the robots nowhere in sight. He takes a small control box from his utility belt similar to the one that the Jawas were carrying. He activates the box, which creates a low hum, and 3PO, letting out a short yell, pops up from behind the Skyhopper spaceship.
What are you doing hiding there?
3PO stumbles forward, but R2 is still nowhere in sight.
Sir, please don't deactivate me. I told him not to go, but he's faulty, malfunctioning, kept babbling on about his mission.
Oh, no.
He races out of the garage, followed by 3PO. The exterior Tatooine, Lars homestead. Luke rushes out of the small doomed entry to the homestead and searches the darkening horizon for the small tripod pastoral robot. 3PO struggles out of the homestead and on the salt flat as Luke scans the landscape with his electro binoculars.
That R2 unit has always messed up. These astro droids are getting quite out of hand. Even I can understand their logic at times.
You're gonna be so stupid. He's nowhere in sight. Blast it!
Pardon me, sir, but couldn't we go after him?
No, it's too dangerous with all the sand people out there. We'll have to wait until morning.
Owen yells up from the homestead plaza.
Luke, I'm shutting down power for the night.
All right, I'll be in a few minutes. Why am I gonna get it?
He takes one final look across the dim horizon.
I knew that little droid was gonna cause me a lot of trouble.
He excels at that, sir.
Interior Lars Homestead Plaza. Morning slowly creeps into the sparse but sparkling oasis of the open courtyard. The idol is broken speed the yelling of Uncle Owen, his voice echoing throughout the homestead.
Luke! 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 Where could he be loafing now?
Interior Lars homestead kitchen. The interior of the kitchen is a warm glow as Aunt Beru prepares the morning breakfast. Owen enters in a huff.
Have you seen Luke this morning?
Hang on, my thing skipped. There we are. He said he had some things to do before he started today, so he left early.
Did he take those new droids with him?
I think so.
Well, he better have those units in the South Range repaired by midday, or they'll be hell to pay.
Exterior Tatooine desert wasteland. Luke's speeder day. The rock and sand of the desert floor are a blur as 3PO pilots the sleek land speeder gracefully across the vast wasteland. Exterior Luke's speeder. Desert wasteland traveling. Day. Luke leans over the back of the speeder and adjusts something in the motor compartment.
How's that?
3PO signals that is fine, and Luke turns back into the wind-whipped cockpit and pops the canopy shut.
Old Ben Kenobi lives out this direction somewhere, but I don't see how that R2 unit could have come out this far. You must have missed him. Uncle Owen isn't going to take this very well.
Sir, would it help if you told him it was my fault?
Sure, he needs you. He'd probably only deactivate you for a day or so.
Deactivate? Well, on the other hand, if you hadn't removed his restraining bolt...
Wait, there's something dead ahead in the scanner. Looks like our droid. Hit the accelerator.
Exterior Tatooine, Rock Mesa, Dune Sea, coastline day. From high on a rock mesa, the tiny land speeder can be seen gliding across the desert floor. Suddenly, in the foreground, two weather-beaten sand people shrouded in their grimy desert cloaks peer over the edge of the rock mesa. One of the marginally human creatures raises a long, ominous laser rifle and points it at the speeder, but the second creature grabs the gun before it can be fired. The Sand People, or Tusken Raiders, as they're sometimes called, speak in a coarse, barbaric language as they get into an animated argument. The second Tusken Raider seems to get in the final word, and the nomads scurry over the rocky terrain. Exterior Tatooine, Rock Mesa Canyon. The Tusken Raider approaches two large banthas standing tied to a rock. The monstrous, bear-like creatures are as large as elephants, with huge red eyes, tremendous looped horns, and long, furry, dinosaur-like tails. The Tusken Raiders mount saddles strapped to the huge creatures' shaggy backs and ride off down the rugged bluff. Exterior Tatooine Rock Canyon floor. The speeder is parked on the floor of a massive canyon. Luke, with his long laser rifle slung over his shoulder, stands before little R2.
Hey, whoa, where do you think you're going?
The little droid whistles a feeble reply as 3PO poses menacingly behind the little runaway.
Master Luke here is your rightful owner. We'll have no more of this Obi-Wan Kenobi gibberish. And don't talk to me about your mission either. You're fortunate he doesn't blast you into a million pieces right here.
Oh, come on. It's getting late. I can only hope we get back before Uncle Owen really blows up.
If you don't mind my saying so, sir, I think you should deactivate the little fugitive until you've gotten him back to your workshop.
No, he's not going to try anything.
Suddenly, the little robot jumps to life with a massive frantic whistles and screams.
What's wrong with him now?
Oh my. Sir, he says there are several creatures appearing from the southeast.
Luke swings his rifle into position and looks to the south.
Sand people. Or worse. Come on, let's have a look. Come on.
The exterior Tatooine Rock Canyon Ridge day. Luke carefully makes his way to the top of a rock ridge and scans the canyon with his electro-binoculars. He spots the two riderless banthas. 3PO struggles up behind the young adventurer.
All right, there are two banthas down there, but I don't see any. Wait a second. Yeah, they're sand people, all right. I can see one of them now.
Luke watches the distant Tusken Raider through his electro-binoculars. Suddenly, something huge moves in front of his field of view. Before Luke or 3PO can react, a large, gruesome Tusken Raider looms over them. 3PO back away, right off the side of a cliff. He can be heard several moments as he clangs, bangs, and rattles down the side of the mountain. The creature brings down his curved, double-pointed scatter field the dreaded axe blade that has struck terror in the heart of the local settlers. But Luke manages to block the blow with his laser rifle, which is smashed to pieces. The terrified farm boy scrambles backward until he is forced to the edge of a deep crevice. The sinister raider stands over him with his weapon raised and lets out a horrible shrieking laugh. Exterior Tatooine, Rock Canyon, floor day, R2 forces himself into the shadows of a small alcove in the rocks as the vicious sand people walk past carrying the inert Luke Skywalker, who was dropped in a heap before the speeder. The sand people ransack the speeder, throwing parts and supplies in all directions. Suddenly they stop. Then everything is quiet for a few moments. A great howling man is heard echoing throughout the which sends the sand people fleeing in terror. R2 moves even tighter into the shadows as the slight swishing sound that frightened off the sand people grows even closer, until a shabby old desert rat of a man appears and leans over Luke. His ancient leathery face, crackled and weathered by exotic climates, is set off by dark, penetrating eyes and a scraggly white beard. Ben Kenobi acquaints his eyes as he squints them as he scrutinizes the unconscious farm boy. R2 makes a slight sound and Ben turns and looks right at him.
Hello there. Come here, my little friend. Don't be afraid.
R2 waddles over to where Luke lies, crumpled in a heap, and begins to whistle in deepest concern. Ben puts his hand on Luke's forehead as he begins to come around.
Don't worry. You'll be all right.
What happened?
Rest easy, son. You've had a busy day. You're fortunate you're still in one piece.
Ben? Ben Kenobi? Boy, am I glad to see you.
The journal and waste are not to be traveled lightly. Tell me, young Luke, what brings you out this far?
Oh, this little droid. I think he's searching for his former master. I mean, I've never seen such devotion in a droid before. There seems to be no stopping him. He claims to be the property of an Obi-Wan Kenobi. Is he a relative of yours? Do you know what he's talking about?
Ben ponders this for a moment, scratching his scruffy beard.
Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. That's a name I've not heard in a long time.
I think my uncle knew him. He said he was dead.
Oh, he's not dead. Not yet.
You know him?
Well, of course I know him. He's me. I haven't gone by that name Obi-Wan since, before you were born.
Well, the droid does belong to you.
Don't seem to remember ever owning a droid. Very interesting.
He suddenly looks up at the overhanging cliffs.
I think we better get indoors. Sand people are easily startled, but they will soon be back, and in greater numbers.
Luke sits up and rubs his head. R2 lets out a pathetic beep, causing Luke to remember something. He looks around.
3PO!
An exterior Tatooine sand pit, Rock Mesa Day. Little R2 stands at the edge of a large sand pit and begins to chatter away in electronic whistles and beeps. And Ben stand over a very dented and tangled 3PO lying half buried in the sand. One of his arms is broken off. Luke tries to revive the inert robot by shaking him and then flips a hidden switch on his back several times until finally the mechanical man systems turn on.
Where am I? I must have taken a bad step.
Can you stand? Look, we gotta get out of here before the sand people return.
I don't think I can make it. You go on, Master Luke. There's no sense in you risking yourself on my account. I'm done for.
R2 makes a beeping sound.
No, you're not. What kind of talk is that?
Luke and Ben help the battered robot to his feet. Little R2 watches from the top of the pit. Ben glances around suspiciously, sensing something. He stands up and sniffs the air.
Quickly, son. They're on the move.
Interior, Kenobi's dwelling. This small Spartan hovel is cluttered with desert junk, but it still manages to radiate an air of time-worn comfort and security. Luke is in the one corner repairing 3PO's arm, and old Ben sits thinking.
No, my father didn't fight in the wars. He was a navigator on a space freighter.
That's what your uncle told you. He didn't hold with your father's ideals. Thought he should have stayed here and not gotten involved.
You fought in the Clone Wars?
Yes, I was once a Jedi Knight, the same as your father.
I wish I'd known him.
He was the best star pilot in the galaxy and a cunning warrior. I understand you've become quite a good pilot yourself, and he was a good friend. Which reminds me,
Ben gets up and goes to a chest where he rummages around. As Luke finishes repairing 3PO and starts to fit the restraining bolt back on, 3PO looks at him nervously. Luke thinks about the bolt for a moment and then puts it on the table. Ben shuffles up and presents Luke with a short handle with several electronic gadgets attached to it.
I have something here for you. Your father wanted you to have this when you were old enough, but your uncle wouldn't allow it. He feared you might follow old Obi-Wan on some damned fool idealistic crusade like your father did.
Sir, if you'll not be needing me, I'll close down for a while.
Sure, go ahead.
Ben hands Luke the saber.
What is it?
Your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight. Not as clumsy or as random as a blaster.
Luke pushes a button on the handle. A long beam shoots about 4 feet and flickers there. The light plays across the ceiling.
An elegant weapon for a more civilized time. For over 1,000 generations, the Jedi Knights were the guardians of peace and justice in the Old Republic. Before the Dark Times, before the Empire.
Luke hasn't really been listening.
Did my father die?
A young Jedi named Darth Vader, who was a pupil of mine until he turned to evil, helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights. He betrayed and murdered your father. Now the Jedi are all but extinct. Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force.
With the Force?
Well, the Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. Binds the galaxy together.
R2 makes beeping sounds.
Now, let's see if we can figure out what you are, my little friend, and where you come from.
I saw part of the message he was...
Luke is cut short as the recorded image of the beautiful young rebel princess is projected on R2's face.
I seem to have found it.
Luke stops his work as the lovely girl's image flickers before his eyes.
General Kenobi, years ago you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, and I'm afraid my mission to bring you to Alderaan has failed. I have placed information vital to the survival of the rebellion into this R2 unit. My father will know how to retrieve it. You must see this droid safely delivered to Alderaan. This is our most desperate hour. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This is a little static and the transmission is cut short. Old Ben leans back and scratches his head. He silently puffs on tarnished chrome water pipe. Luke has stars in his eyes.
You must learn the ways of the Force if you're to come with me to Alderaan.
Alderaan? I'm not going to Alderaan. I gotta go home. It's late. I'm in for it as it is.
I need your help, Luke. She needs your help. I'm getting too old for this sort of thing.
Well, I can't get involved. I got work to do. It's not that I like the Empire. I hate it, but there's nothing I can do about it right now. It's such a long way from here.
That's your uncle talking.
Oh, my uncle. How am I ever going to explain this?
Learn about the Force, Luke.
Look, I can take you as far as Anchorhead. I mean, you can easily get a transport there to Mos Eisley or wherever you're going.
You must do what you feel is right, of course.
Exterior space. An Imperial Star Destroyer heads toward the evil planet-like battle station, the Death Star. Interior Death Star conference room. 8 Imperial senators and generals sit around a black conference table. Imperial stormtroopers stand guard around the room. Commander Tag, a young, slimy-looking general, is speaking.
Until this battle station is fully operational, we are vulnerable. The Rebel Alliance is too well equipped. They're more dangerous than you realize.
The bitter Admiral Malksy twists nervously in his chair.
Dangerous to your Starfleet, Commander. Not to this battle station.
The rebellion will continue to gain a support in the Imperial Senate as long as...
Suddenly, all heads turn as Commander Tag's speech is cut short and the Grand Moff Tarkin, governor of the Imperial Outland regions, enters. He is followed by his powerful ally, the Sith Lord Darth Vader. All of the generals stand and bow before the thin, evil-looking governor as he takes his place at the head of the table. The Dark Lord stands behind him.
The Imperial Senate will no longer be of any concern to us. I've just received word that the Emperor has dissolved the Council permanently. The last remnants of the Old Republic have been swept away.
That's impossible. How will the Emperor maintain control without the bureaucracy?
The regional governors now have direct control over territories. Fear will keep the local systems in line. Fear of this battle station.
And what of the rebellion? If the rebels have obtained a complete technical readout of this station, it is possible, however unlikely, that they might find a weakness and exploit it.
The plans you refer to will soon be back in our hands.
Any attack made by the rebels against this station would be a useless gesture, no matter what technical data they've obtained. This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you have constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerous ways, Lord Vader. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort.
Suddenly, Malty chokes and starts to turn blue under Vader's spell.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Enough of this. Vader, release him.
As you wish.
This bickering is pointless. Lord Vader will provide us with the location of the rebel fortress by the time this station is operational. We will then crush the rebellion with one swift stroke.
Exterior Tatooine wasteland. The speeder stops before what remains of the huge Jawa sandcrawler. Luke and Ben walk among the smoldering rubble and scattered bodies.
Looks like sand people did this all right. I mean, look, there are gaffy sticks, bantha tracks. It's just... I never heard of hitting anything this big before.
Ben is crouching in the sand, studying the tracks.
They didn't, but we're meant to think they did. These tracks are side by side. Sand people always ride single file to hide their numbers.
These are the same Jawas that sold us R2 and 3PO.
And these blast points, too accurate for Sand people. Only Imperial stormtroopers are so precise.
Why would Imperial troops want to slaughter Jawas?
Luke looks back at the speeder where R2 and 3PO are inspecting the dead Jawas and put two and two together.
Well, if they trace the robots here, then they may have learned who they sold them to, and that would lead them home.
Luke reaches a sudden horrible realization, then races for the speeder and jumps it.
Wait, Luke, it's too dangerous.
Luke races off, leaving Ben and the two robots alone with the burning sandcrawler. Exterior Tatooine wasteland. Luke races across the wasteland in his battered land speeder. Lars homestead. The speeder roars up to the burning homestead. Luke jumps out and runs to the smoking holes that for once is home. Debris is scattered everywhere, and it looks as if a great battle has taken place.
Uncle Owen! Aunt Beru! Uncle Owen!
Luke stumbles around in a daze, looking for his aunt and uncle. Suddenly, he comes upon their smoldering remains. He is stunned, cannot speak. Hate replaces fear, and a new resolve comes over him. The exterior space, Imperial TIE fighter races towards the Death Star. Interior Death Star detention corridor. Two stormtroopers open an electronic cell door and allow several Imperial guards to enter. Princess Leia's face is filled with defiance, which slowly gives way to fear as a giant black torture robot enters, followed by Darth Vader.
And now, Your Highness, we will discuss the location of your hidden rebel base.
The torture robot gives off a steady beeping sound as it approaches Princess Leia and extends one of its mechanical arms bearing a large hypodermic needle. The door slides shut and the long cell block hallway appears peaceful. The muffled screams of the rebel princess are barely heard. The exterior Tatooine wasteland. There is a large bonfire of Jawa bodies blazing in front of the sandcrawler as Ben and the robots finish burning the dead. Luke drives up in the speeder and Ben walks over to him.
There's nothing you could have done, Luke, had you been there. You'd have been killed too, and the droids would be in the hands of the Empire.
Look, I want to come with you to Alderaan. There's nothing here for me now. I want to learn the ways of the Force and become a Jedi like my father.
Exterior Tatooine wasteland. The land speeder with Luke, R2, 3PO, and Ben in it zooms across the desert. The speeder stops on a bluff overlooking the spaceport at Mos Eisley. It is a haphazard array of low, gray concrete structures and semi-domes. A harsh gale blows across the stark canyon floor. Luke adjusts his goggles and walks to the edge of the craggy bluff where Ben is standing.
Mos Eisley Spaceport. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. You must be cautious.
Ben looks over at Luke, who gives the old Jedi a determined smile. Exterior Tatooine Mos Eisley Street. The speeder is stopped on a crowded street by several combat-hardened stormtroopers who look over the two robots. A trooper questions Luke.
How long have you had these droids?
About 3 or 4 seasons?
They're for sale if you want them.
Let me see your identification.
Luke becomes very nervous as he fumbles to find his ID, while Ben speaks to the trooper in a very controlled voice.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These are not the droids you're looking for.
These are not the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You go about your business.
Move along.
Move along. Move along.
Exterior Tatooine, Mos Eisley Street. The speeder pulls up in front of a rundown blockhouse cantina on the outskirts of the spaceport. Various strange forms of transport, including several unusual beasts of burden, are parked outside the bar. A Jawa runs up and begins to fondle the speeder.
I can't abide these Jawas, disgusting creatures.
As Luke gets out of the speeder, he tries to shoo the Jawa away.
Go on, go on. Can't understand how we got by those troopers. I thought we were dead.
The Force can have a strong influence on the weak-minded. You will find it a powerful ally.
Do you really think we're going to find a pilot here that'll take us to Alderaan?
Well, most of the best freighter pilots can be found here. Only watch your step. This place can be a little rough.
I'm ready for anything.
Come along, R2.
Interior Tatooine, Mos Eisley Cantina. The young adventurer and the moldy den is filled with a startling array of weird and exotic alien creatures and monsters at the long metallic bar. At first, the sight is horrifying. One-eyed, satisfied, slimy, odd creatures huddle over drinks. Ben moves to an empty spot at the bar near a group of repulsive human scum. A huge, rough-looking bartender stops Luke and the robots.
We don't serve their kind here.
Luke, still recovering from the shock of seeing so many outlandish creatures, doesn't quite catch the bartender's drift.
What? Your droids. They'll have to wait outside. We don't want them here.
Luke looks at old Ben, who is busy talking to one of the galactic pirates. He notices several of the gruesome creatures along the bar are giving him a very unfriendly glare. Luke pats 3PO on the shoulder.
Listen, why don't you go away by the speeder? We don't want any trouble.
I heartily agree with you, sir.
3PO and his stubby partner go outside, and most of the creatures at the bar go back to their drinks. Ben is standing next to Chewbacca, an 8-foot-tall, savage-looking creature resembling a huge gray bush baby monkey with fierce baboon-like fangs. His large blue eyes dominate a fur-covered face and soften his otherwise awesome appearance. Over his matted furry body, he wears 2 chrome bandoliers and little else. He is a 200-year-old Wookiee and a sight to behold. Ben speaks to the Wookiee, pointing to Luke several times during his conversation, and the creature suddenly lets out a horrifying laugh. Luke is more than a little disconcerted and pretends not to hear the conversation between Ben and the giant Wookiee. Luke is terrified but tries not to show it. He quietly sips his drink, looking over the crowd for a more sympathetic ear, or whatever. A large multiple-eyed creature gives Luke a rough shove.
Nicola Dawagi will Duggar?
The hideous freak is obviously drunk. Luke tries to ignore the creature and turns back on his drink. A short, grubby human and even smaller rodent-like beast join the belligerent monstrosity. He doesn't like you.
I'm sorry.
I don't like you either. The big creature is getting agitated and yells out some unintelligible gibberish at the now rather nervous young adventurer. Don't insult us, you just watch yourself. We're wanted men. I have the death sentence in 12 systems.
I'll be careful then.
You'll be dead! The rodent lets out a large grunt and everything at the bar moves away. Luke tries to remain cool, but it isn't easy. His 3 adversaries ready their weapons. Old Ben moves in behind Luke.
This one isn't worth the effort. Come, let me buy you something.
A powerful blow from the unpleasant creature sends the young would-be Jedi sailing across the room, crashing through the tables and breaking a large jug filled with a foul-looking liquid. With a blood-curdling shriek, the monster draws a wicked chrome laser pistol from his belt and levels it at old Ben. The bartender panics.
No blasters! No blaster!
With astounding agility, old Ben's laser sword sparks to life in a flash. An arm lies on the floor. The rodent is cut in two, and the giant multiple-eyed creatures lie doubled, out from chin to groin. Ben carefully and precisely turns off his laser sword and replaces it on his utility belt. Luke, shaking and totally amazed at the old man's abilities, attempts to stand. The entire fight has lasted only a matter of seconds. The cantina goes back to normal, although Ben is given a respectable amount of room at the bar. Luke, rubbing his bruised in his head, approaches the old man with new awe. Ben points to the Wookiee.
This is Chewbacca. He's first mate on a ship that might suit our needs.
Exterior Tatooine, Mos Eisley Street. 3PO paces in front of the cantina as R2 carries on an electronic conversation with another little red astro droid. A creature comes out of the cantina and approaches 2 stormtroopers in the street.
I don't like the look of this.
Interior Tatooine, Mos Eisley Cantina. Strange creatures play exotic big band music on odd-looking instruments as Luke, still giddy, downs a fresh drink and follows Ben and Chewbacca to a booth where Han Solo is sitting. Han is a tough, roguish star pilot. About 30 years old, a mercenary on a starship. He is simple, sentimental, and cocksure.
Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon. Chewie here tells me you're looking for passage to the Alderaan system.
Yes, indeed. It's a fast ship.
Fast ship? You never heard of the Millennium Falcon?
Should I have?
It's the ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
Ben reacts to Solo's stupid attempt to impress them with the obvious information.
How about run Imperial starships, not the local bank cruises, mind you. I'm talking about the big Corellian ships now. She's fast enough for you, old man. What's the cargo?
Only passengers. Myself, the boy, 2 droids, and no questions asked.
What is it, some kind of local trouble?
Let's just say we'd like to avoid any Imperial entanglements.
Well, that's the trick, isn't it? And it's going to cost you something extra. 10,000 in advance.
10,000? We'd almost buy our own ship for that.
But who's going to fly it, kid? You?
You bet I could. I'm not such a bad pilot myself. I don't have to sit here and listen to this.
We haven't that much with us. But we could pay you 2,000 now, plus 15 when we reach Alderaan.
17, huh?
Han ponders this for a few moments.
Okay. You guys got yourself a ship. We'll leave as soon as you're ready. Docking bay 94.
94.
Looks like somebody's beginning to take an interest in your handiwork.
Ben and Luke turn around to see 4 Imperial stormtroopers looking at the dead bodies and asking the bartender some questions. The bartender points to the booth.
All right, check it out.
The stormtroopers look over at the booth, but Luke and Ben are gone. The bartender shrugs his shoulders in puzzlement.
17,000. Those guys must be really desperate. This could really save my neck. All right, get back to the ship and get her ready.
Interior Tatooine, Mos Eisley Street.
You'll have to sell your speeder.
That's okay. I'm never coming back to this planet ever again.
Interior Mos Eisley Cantina. As Han is about to leave, Greedo, a slimy, green-faced alien with a short, trunk nose, pokes a gun in his side. The creature speaks in a foreign tongue, translated into English subtitles.
Yes, Greedo. As a matter of fact, I was just going to see your boss. Tell Jabba that I've got his money.
Han sits down, and the alien sits across from him, holding the gun on him.
Yeah, but this time I got the money. I don't have it with me. Tell Jabba. Even I get bored sometimes. Do you think I had a choice?
Han Solo slowly reaches for his gun under the table.
Over my dead body. Yes, I'll bet you have.
Suddenly, the slimy alien disappears in a blinding flash of light. Han pulls his smoking gun from beneath the table. As the other Patreon looks in bemused amazement, Han gets up, starts out of the cantina, flipping the bartender some coins as he leaves.
Sorry about the mess.
Exterior space. Several TIE fighters approach the Death Star. Interior Death Star control room.
Her resistance to the mind probe is considerable. It'll be some time before we can extract any information from her.
An Imperial officer interrupts the meeting.
The final checkout is complete. All systems are operational. What course shall we set?
Perhaps she should respond to an alternate form of persuasion.
What do you mean?
I think it is time we demonstrate the full power of this station. Set your course for Princess Leia's home planet of Alderaan.
With pleasure.
Exterior Tatooine, Mos Eisley Street. 4 heavily armed stormtroopers move menacingly along a narrow slum alleyway, crowded with darkly clad creatures hawking exotic goods in the dingy little stalls. Men, monsters, and robots crouch in the waste-filled doorways, whispering and hiding from the hot winds.
Lock the door, R2.
One of the troopers checks a tightly locked door and moves on down the alleyway. The door slides open, a crack, and 3PO peeks out. R2 is barely visible in the background.
All right, check that side of the street. It's secure. Move on to next door.
The door opens. 3PO moves into the doorway.
I would much rather have gone with Master Luke than stay here with you. I don't know what all the trouble is about, but I'm sure it must be your fault.
R2 makes beeping sounds.
You watch your language.
Exterior Tatooine, Mos Eisley Street, alleyway. Speeder lot. Ben and Luke are standing in a sleazy used speeder lot, talking with a tall, grotesque, insect-like used speeder dealer. Strange exotic bodies and spindly legs feast past. As the insect concludes the sale by giving Luke some coins.
He says it's the best he can do. Since the XP-38 came out, they're just not in demand.
It will be enough.
Ben and Luke leave the speeder lot and walk down the dusty alleyway, past a small robot herding a bunch of anteater-like creatures. Luke turns and gives one last forlorn look at the faithful speeder as he rounds a corner. A darkly clad creature moves out of the shadows as they pass and watch them as they disappear down another alley.
If the ship's as fast as he's boasting, we ought to do well.
Interior docking bay, 94, day. Jabba the Hutt and a half-dozen grisly alien pirates and purple creatures stand in the middle of the docking bay. Jabba is the grossest of the slave marine hulks, and his scarred face is a grim testimonial to his prowess as a vicious killer. He is a fat, slug-like creature with eyes on extended feelers and a huge, ugly mouth. A voice from directly behind the pirates startles them, and they turn around to see Han Solo and the giant Wookiee Chewbacca standing behind them with no weapons in sight.
I've been waiting for you, Jabba. I'm not the type to run. You said Greedo to blast me.
I
think he thought he was. Next time, don't send one of those twerps. If you got something to say to me, come see me yourself. You know, even I get bored sometimes, Jabba. I had no choice, but I've got a charter now and I can pay you back, plus a little extra. I just need some more time. Jabba, you're a wonderful human being.
Exterior docking port entry, alleyway. Chewbacca waits restlessly at the entrance to docking bay. Ben, Luke, and the robots make their way up the street. Chewbacca jabbers excitedly and signals for them to hurry. The darkly clad creature has followed them from the speeder lot. He stops in a nearby doorway and speaks into a small transmitter. Interior, Mos Eisley Spaceport, Docking Bay 94. Chewbacca leads the group into a giant dirt pit that is Docking Bay 94. Resting in the middle of the huge hole is a large, round, beat-up, placed together hunk of junk that could only loosely be called a starship.
What a piece of junk!
The tall figure of Han Solo comes down the boarding ramp.
She'll make 0.5 beyond the speed of light. She may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid. I've added a few special modifications myself.
Luke scratches his head. It's obvious he isn't sure about this. Chewbacca rushes up the ramp and urges the others to follow.
We're a little rushed, so if you'll hurry aboard, we'll get out of here.
The group rushes up the gangplank, passing a grinning Han Solo. Interior, Millennium Falcon. Chewbacca settles into the pilot's chair and starts the mighty engines of the starship. The interior, Mos Eisley Spaceport, Docking Bay 94, Luke, Ben, 3PO, and R2 move toward the Millennium Falcon, passing Solo.
Hello, sir.
Exterior, Tatooine, Mos Eisley Street, right? 8 Imperial troops, stormtroopers rush up to the darkly clad creature.
Which way?
The darkly clad creature, he points to the door of the docking bay.
All right, men. Hold your weapons.
Mos Eisley Spaceport, Docking Bay 94. The troops hold their guns at ready and charge down the docking bay entrance.
Stop that ship.
Han Solo looks up and sees the Imperial troops rushing into the docking bay. Several of the troopers fire at Han as he ducks into the spaceship.
Blast him.
Han draws his laser pistol and pops off a couple shots, which force the stormtroopers to dive for safety. The pirate ship engines whine as Han hits the release button that slams the overhead entry shut. Interior, Millennium Falcon.
Chewie, get us out of here.
The group straps in for takeoff.
Oh my, I've forgotten how much I hate space travel.
Exterior, Tatooine, Mos Eisley streets. The half-dozen stormtroopers at a checkpoint hear the general alarm and look to the sky as the huge starship rises above the dingy slum dwellings and quickly disappears into the morning sky. Interior, Millennium Falcon cockpit. Han climbs into the pilot's chair next to Chewbacca, who chatters away as he points to something on the radar scope. The exterior space, planet Tatooine. The Corellian pirate ship zooms from Tatooine into space. Interior, Millennium Falcon cockpit. Han frantically types information into the ship's computer. Little R2 appears momentarily as the cockpit doorway, makes a few beeping remarks, then scurries away.
Looks like an Imperial cruiser. Our passengers must be hotter than I thought. Try and hold them off. Angle the deflector shield while I make the calculations for the jump to light speed.
Exterior space, planet Tatooine. The Millennium Falcon pirate ship races away from the yellow planet Tatooine. It is followed by two huge Imperial Star Destroyers. The interior Millennium Falcon cockpit, over the shoulders of Chewbacca and Han, we can see the galaxy spread before them. Luke and Ben make their way into the cramped cockpit where Han continues his calculation.
Stay sharp. There are two more coming in. They're going to try to cut us off.
Why you just outrun them? I thought you said this thing was fast.
Watch your mouth, kid, or you're going to find yourself floating home. We'll be safe enough once we make the jump to hyperspace. Besides, I know a few maneuvers. We'll lose them.
Exterior space, planet Tatooine. Imperial cruisers fire at the pirate ship. The interior of the Millennium Falcon cockpit, the ship shudders as an explosion flashes outside the window.
Here's where the fun begins.
How long before you can make the jump to light speed?
It'll take a few moments to get the coordinates from the Navi computer.
The ship begins to rock violently as lasers hit it.
Are you kidding? At the rate they're gaining.
Traveling through hyperspace isn't like dust and crops, boy. Without precise calculations, we can fly right through a star or bounce too close to a supernova. That'd end your trip real quick, wouldn't it?
And the ship is now constantly battered with laser fire as a red warning light begins to flash.
What's that flashing?
Losing a deflector shield. Go strap yourself in. I'm going to make the jump to light speed.
The galaxy brightens and they move faster, almost as if crashing a barrier. Stars become streaks as the pirate ship makes the jump to hyperspace. Exterior space, the Millennium Falcon zooms into infinity in less than a second. Exterior Death Star. Alderaan looms behind the Death Star battle station. Interior Death Star control room. Admiral Malti appears in the quiet control room and bows before Governor Tarkin, who stands before the huge wall screen displaying a small green planet.
We've entered the Alderaan system.
Vader and two stormtroopers enter with the Princess Leia. Her hands are bound.
Governor Tarkin, I should have expected to find you holding Vader's leash. I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board.
Charming to the last. You don't know how hard I find it saying the order to terminate your life.
I'm surprised you had the courage to take the responsibility yourself.
Princess Leia, before your execution, I would like you to be my guest at a ceremony that will make this battle station operational. No star system will dare oppose the Emperor now.
The more you tighten your grip, Tarkin, the more star systems will slip through your fingers.
Not after we demonstrate the power of this station. In a way, you have determined the choice of planet that will be destroyed first. Since you are reluctant to provide us with the location of the rebel base, I have chosen to test this station is destructive power on your planet of Alderaan.
No! Alderaan is a peaceful planet. We have no weapons. You can't possibly.
You wouldn't prefer another target? A military target? Then name the system.
Tarkin waves menacingly towards Leia.
I grow tired of asking this, so it'll be the last time. Where is the rebel base?
Leia overhears an intercom voice announcing the approach to Alderaan.
Dantooine.
Leia lowers
They're
her.
on Dantooine.
There, you see, Lord Vader? She can be reasonable. Continue with the operation. You may fire when ready.
What?
You're far too trusting. Tatooine is too remote to make an effective demonstration. But don't worry, we will deal with your rebel friends soon enough.
No!
Interior Death Star blast chamber.
Commence primary ignition.
A button is pressed which switches on a panel of lights. A hooded Imperial soldier reaches overhead and pulls a lever. Another lever is pulled. Vader reaches for still another lever, and a bank of lights on a panel and wall light up. A huge beam of light emanates from within a cone-shaped area and converges into a single laser beam out towards Alderaan. The small green planet of Alderaan is blown into space dust. Interior Millennium Falcon, central hold area. Ben watches Luke practice the lightsaber with a small seeker robot. Ben suddenly turns away and sits down. He falters, seems almost faint.
Are you all right? What's wrong?
I felt a great disturbance in the court, as if millions of voices suddenly cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. There's something terrible has happened.
Ben rubs his forehead. He seems to drift into a trance. Then he fixes his gaze on Luke.
Better get on with your exercises.
Han Solo enters the room.
Well, you can forget your troubles with those Imperial slugs. I told you I'd outrun them.
Luke is once again practicing with the lightsaber.
Don't everyone thank me at once.
3PO watches Chewbacca and R2, who are engrossed in a game in which three-dimensional holographic figures move along a chess-type board.
Anyway, we should be at Alderaan in 200 hours.
Chewbacca and the two robots sit around the lighted table covered with small holographic monsters. Each side of the table has a small computer monitor embedded in it. Chewbacca seems very pleased with himself as he rests in lanky fur-covered arms over his head.
Now be careful, R2.
R2 immediately reaches up and taps the computer with his stubby claw hand, causing one of the holographic creatures to walk to the new square. A sudden frown crosses Chewbacca's face as he begins yelling gibberish at the tiny 3PO intercedes on behalf of his small companion and begins to argue with the huge Wookiee.
He made a fair move. Screaming about it won't help you.
Let him have it. It's not wise to upset a Wookiee.
But sir, nobody worries about upsetting a droid.
That's because droids don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose. Wookiees are known to do that.
I see your point, sir. I suggest a new strategy, R2. Let the Wookiee win.
Luke stands in the middle of the small hold area. He seems frozen in place. A humming lightsaber is held high over his head. Ben watches him from the corner, studying his movements. Han watches with a bit of smugness.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
Suspended at eye level, about 10 feet in front of Luke, a seeker, a chrome baseball-like robot covered with antennae, hovers slowly in a wide arc. The ball floats to one side of the youth, then the other. Suddenly, it makes a lightning-swift lunge and stops within a few feet of Luke's face. Luke doesn't move, and the ball backs off. It slowly moves behind the boy, then makes another quick lunge, this time emitting a blood-red laser beam. As it attacks, it hits Luke in the leg, causing him to tumble over. Han lets loose with a burst of laughter.
Look, your religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Well, you don't believe in the Force, do you?
Kid, I've flown from one side of this galaxy to the other. I've seen a lot of strange stuff, but I've never seen anything to make me believe there's one all-powerful force controlling everything. There's no mystical energy field that controls my destiny.
Ben smiles quietly.
It's all just it's a lot of simple tricks and nonsense.
I suggest you try it again, Luke.
Ben places a large helmet on Luke's head, which covers his eyes.
This time, let go your conscious self and act on instinct.
With the blast shield down, I can't even see. How am I supposed to fight?
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
Han skeptically shakes his head as Ben throws the seeker into the air. The ball shoots straight up in the air, then drops like a rock. Luke swings the lightsaber around, blindly missing the seeker, which fires off a laser bolt, which hits Luke square on the seat of the pants. He lets out a painful yell and attempts to hit the seeker.
Stretch out with your feelings.
Luke stands in one place, seemingly frozen. The seeker makes a dive at Luke, and incredibly, he manages to deflect the bolt. The ball ceases fire and moves back to its original position.
You see, you can do it.
I call it luck.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
Look, going against remotes is one thing. Going against the living, that's something else.
Solo notices a small light flashing on the far side of the control panel.
Looks like we're coming up on Alderaan.
Han and Chewbacca head back to the cockpit.
You know, I did feel something. I can almost see the remote.
That's good. You have taken your first step into a larger world.
Interior Death Star conference room. Imperial officer Cass stands before Governor Tarkin and the evil Dark Lord, Darth Vader.
Yes.
Our scout ships have reached Dantooine. They found the remains of a rebel base, but they estimate that it has been deserted for some time. They are now conducting an extensive search of the surrounding systems.
She lied. She lied to us.
I told you she would never consciously betray the rebellion.
Terminate her immediately.
Exterior hyperspace. The pirate ship is just coming out of hyperspace. A strange, surreal light shows that surrounds the ship. Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit.
Stand by, Chewie. Here we go. Cut in the sublight engines.
Han pulls back on a control lever. Outside the cockpit window, stars begin streaking past. Seem to decrease in speed, then stop. Suddenly, the starship begins to shudder and violently shake about. The asteroids begin to race towards them, battering the sides of the ship.
What the? Oh, we come out into hyperspace into a meteor shower. Some kind of asteroid collision. It's not on any of the charts.
The Wookiee flips off several controls and seems very cool in the emergency. Luke makes his way into the bouncing cockpit.
What's going on?
Our position is correct, except no Alderaan.
What do you mean? Where is it?
That's what I'm trying to tell you, kid. It ain't there. It's been totally blown away.
What? How?
Ben moves into the cockpit behind Luke as the ship begins to settle down.
Destroyed by the Empire.
The entire Starfleet couldn't destroy the whole planet. Take 1,000 ships with more firepower than.
A signal starts flashing on the control panel and a muffled alarm starts humming.
There's another ship coming in.
Maybe they know what happened.
It's an Imperial fighter.
Chewbacca barks his concern. A huge explosion burst outside the cockpit window, shaking the ship violently. A tiny finned Imperial's TIE fighter races past the cockpit window.
It followed us.
No, it's a short-range fighter.
There aren't any bases around here. Where did it come from?
Exterior space, the fighter races past the Corellian pirate ship. Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit.
We're sure it's leaving in a big hurry. If they identify us, we're in big trouble.
Not if I can help it. Chewie, jam its transmissions.
It'd be as well to let it go. It's too far out of range.
Not for long.
Exterior space, the pirate ship zooms over the camera and away into the vastness of space after the Imperial TIE fighter. Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit, the tension mounts as the pirate ship gains on the tiny fighter in the distance. One of the stars becomes brighter until it is obvious that the TIE ship is heading for it. Ben stands behind Chewbacca.
A fighter that size couldn't get this deep into space on its own.
He must have gotten lost or been part of our convoy or something.
Well, he ain't going to be around long enough to tell anyone about us.
Exterior space, the TIE fighter is losing ground to the larger pirate ship as they race towards camera and disappear overhead. Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit, the distant star can be distinguished as a small moon or planet.
Well, look at him. He's heading for that small moon.
I think I can get him before he gets there. He's almost in range.
The small moon begins to take on the appearance of a monstrous spherical battle station.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Too big to be a space station.
I have a very bad feeling about this.
Yeah, I think you're right. Full reverse, Chewie. Lock in the auxiliary power.
The pirate ship shudders and the TIE fighter accelerates way towards the gargantuan battle station.
Why are we so moving towards it?
We're caught in a tractor beam. It's pulling us in.
There's gotta be something you can do.
There's nothing I can do about it, kid. I'm at full power. I'm going to have to shut down. But they're not going to get me without a fight.
Then Kenobi puts a hand on his shoulder.
You can't win, but there are alternatives to fighting.
Interior Millennium Falcon, Death Star. As the battered pirate starship is moving closer to the awesome metal moon, the immense size of the massive battle station becomes staggering. Running along the equator of the gigantic sphere is a mile-high band of huge docking ports into which the helpless pirate ship is dragged. Exterior Death Star, huge port doors. The helpless Millennium Falcon is pulled past a docking port control room and huge laser turret cannons. 98 voice over Death Star Intercom 98. Clear Bay 23-7. We are opening the magnetic field. Interior Death Star Docking Bay 2037. The pirate ship is pulled in through port doors of the Death Star, coming to rest in a huge hangar. 30 stormtroopers stand at attention in a central assembly area. Now, to your stations. Come with me. Interior Death Star hallway. Stormtroopers run to their post. Interior Death Star hangar 2037. A line of stormtroopers march toward the pirate ship in readiness to board it, while other troopers stand with weapons ready to fire. Close all outboard shields. Close all outboard shields. Interior Death Star conference room. Tarkin pushes a button and responds to the intercom buzz.
Yes?
We captured a freighter entering the remains of the Alderaan system. Its markings match those of a ship that blasted its way out of Mos Eisley.
Sorry. There must be trying to return the stolen plans to the princess. She may yet be some use to us.
Interior Death Star Docking Bay 2037. Vader and a commander approach the troops as an officer and several heavily armed troops exit the spacecraft. Over intercom, unlock 157 and 9. Release charges. There's no one on board, sir. According to the log, the crew abandoned ship after takeoff. It must be a decoy, sir. Several of the escape pods have been jettisoned.
Did you find any droids?
No, sir. If there were any on board, they must have jettisoned.
Send a scanning crew on board. I want every part of the ship checked.
Yes, sir.
I sense something. A presence I haven't felt since...
Vader turns quickly and exits the hangar. Get me a scanning crew in here on the double. I want every part of the ship checked. Interior Millennium Falcon hallway. A trooper runs through the hallway, heading for the exit. In a few moments, all is quiet. The muffled sounds of a distant officer giving orders finally fade. 2 floor panels suddenly pop up, revealing Han Solo and Luke. Ben Kenobi sticks his head out of a third locker.
Boy, it's lucky you had these compartments.
They use them for smuggling. Never thought I'd be smuggling myself in them. This is ridiculous. Even if I could take off, I'd never get past the tractor beam.
Leave that to me.
Fool. I knew that you were going to say that.
Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him?
Han shakes his head, muttering to himself. Chewbacca agrees. Death Star main forward bay. The crewmen carry a heavy box on board the ship, past the 2 stormtroopers guarding either side of the ramp.
The ship's all yours. If the scanners picked up anything, report it immediately. All right, let's go.
The crewmen enter the pirate ship, and a loud crashing sound is followed by a voice calling to the guard below.
Hey down there, could you give us a hand with this?
The stormtroopers enter the ship, and a quick round of gunfire is heard. Interior Death Star forward day command office. In a very small command office near the entrance to the pirate ship, a gantry officer looks out his window and notices the guards are missing. He speaks into the comlink.
TX412, why aren't you at your post? TX412, do you copy?
A stormtrooper comes down the ramp of the pirate ship and waves to the gantry officer, pointing to his ear, indicating his comlink is not working. The gantry officer shakes his head in disgust and heads for the door, giving his aide an annoyed look.
Take over. We've got a bad transmitter. I'll see what I can do.
As the officer approaches the door, it slides open, revealing the towering Chewbacca. The officer, in a momentary state of shock, stumbles backward. With a bone-chilling howl, the giant Wookiee flattens the officer with one blow. The aide immediately reaches for his pistol, but is blasted by Han, dressed as an Imperial stormtrooper. Ben and the robots enter the room quickly, followed by Luke, also dressed as a stormtrooper. Luke quickly removes his helmet.
You know, between his howling and you're blasting everything inside, it's a wonder the whole station doesn't know we're here.
Bring them on. I prefer a straight fight to all this sneaking around.
We found the computer outlet, sir.
Ben feeds some information into the computer, and a map of the city appears on the monitor. He begins to inspect it carefully. 3PO and R2 look over the control panel. R2 finds something that makes him whistle wildly.
Plug in. You should be able to interpret the entire Imperial computer network.
R2 punches his claw arm into the computer socket, and the vast Imperial brain network comes to life, feeding information to the little robot. After a few moments, he beeps something.
He says he's found the main computer to power the tractor beam that's holding the ship here. He'll try to make the precise location appear on the monitor.
The computer monitor flashes readouts.
The tractor beam is coupled to the main reactor in 7 locations. A power loss at one of the terminals will allow the ship to leave.
Ben studies the data on the monitor readout.
I don't think you boys can help. I must go alone.
Whatever you say. I've done more than I bargained for on this trip already.
I want to go with you.
Be patient, Luke. Stay and watch over the droids.
But he can...
They must be delivered safely, or other star systems will suffer the same fate as Alderaan. Your destiny lies along a different path than mine. The Force will be with you. Always.
Ben adjusts the lightsaber on his belt and silently steps out of the command office, then disappears down a long gray hallway. Chewbacca barks a comment, and Han shakes his head in agreement.
Well, you said it, Chewie.
Han looks at Luke.
Where did you dig up that old fossil?
Hey, Ben's a great man.
Yeah, great at getting us into trouble.
Well, I didn't hear you giving any ideas.
Well, anything would be better than just hanging around waiting for him to pick us up.
Who do you think...
Suddenly, R2 begins to whistle and a blue streak. Luke goes over to him.
What is it?
I'm afraid I'm not quite sure, sir. He says I found her and keeps repeating she's here.
Who? Who has he found?
R2 whistles a frantic reply.
Princess Leia.
The princess? She's here?
Princess? What's going on?
Level 5, detention block AA-23. I'm afraid she's scheduled to be terminated.
No, we gotta do something.
What are you talking about?
Look, the droid belongs to her. She's the one in the message. We gotta help her.
Now look, don't get any funny ideas. The old man wants us to wait right here.
Yeah, but he didn't know she was here. Look, will you just find a way back to the detention block?
I'm not going anywhere.
They're gonna execute her. Look, just a few minutes ago you said you didn't want to wait here to be captured. Now all you want to do is stay.
Marching to the detention area isn't exactly what I had in mind.
But they're gonna kill her.
Better her than me.
She's rich.
Chewbacca growled.
Rich?
Yeah, rich, powerful. Listen, if you were to rescue her, the reward would be...
What?
Well, more wealth than you can imagine.
I don't know. I can imagine quite a bit.
You'll get it.
I better.
You will.
All right, kid. But you better be right about this.
Han looks at Chewie, who grunts a short grunt.
All right.
What's your plan?
3PO, hand me those binders there, will you?
Luke moves towards Chewbacca with electronic cuffs.
Okay, now I'm going to put these on you.
Chewie lets out a hideous growl.
Okay, Han, you put these on.
Luke sheepishly hands the binders to Han.
Don't worry, Chewie. I think I know what he has in mind.
The Wookiee has a worried and frightened look on his face as Han binds them with the electronic cuffs.
Master Luke, sir, pardon me for asking, but what should R2 and I do if we're discovered here?
Lock the door.
I hope they don't have blasters.
That isn't very reassuring.
Luke and Han put on their armored stormtrooper helmets and start off into the giant Imperial Death Star.
All right.
Okay. Interior Death Star detention area, elevator tube. Han and Luke try to look inconspicuous in their armored suits as they wait for a vacuum elevator to arrive. Troops, bureaucrats, and robots bustle about, ignoring the trio completely. Only a few give the giant Wookiee a curious glance. Finally, a small elevator arrives and the trio enters.
Yeah, thing in his helmet.
A bureaucrat races to get aboard also, but is signaled away by Han. The door to the pod-like vehicle slides closed and the elevator car takes off through a vacuum tube. Interior Death Star main hallway. Several Imperial officers walk through the wide main passageway. They pass several stormtroopers and a robot similar to 3PO, but with an insect face. At the far end of the hallway, a passing flash of Ben Kenobi appears, then disappears down a small hallway. His appearance is so fleeting that it is hard to tell if he is real or just an illusion. No one in the hallway seems to notice him. Interior Death Star, interior elevator, detention security area. Luke and Han step forward to exit the elevator, but the door slides open behind them. The giant Wookiee and him, 2 guards, enter the old gray security station. Guards and laser gates are everywhere. Han whispers to Luke under his breath.
Not going to work.
Why didn't you say so before?
I did say so before.
Interior detention area. Elevator door opens. A tall, grim-looking officer approaches the trio. Where are you taking this thing? Chewie growls a bit at the remark, but Han nudges him to shut up.
Prisoner transfer from block 1138.
I wasn't notified. I'll have to clear it. The officer goes back to his console and begins to punch in the information. There are only 3 other troopers in the area. Luke and Han survey the situation, checking all of the alarms, laser gates, and camera eyes. Han unfastens one of Chewbacca's electronic cuffs and shrugs to Luke. Suddenly, Chewbacca throws up his hands and lets out with one eye-piercing howls. He grabs Han's laser rifle.
Look out! He's loose!
He's gonna pull us all apart!
Go get him!
The startled guards are momentarily dumbfounded. Luke and Han have already pulled out their laser pistols and are blasting away at the terrifying Wookiee. Their barrage of laser fire misses Chewbacca, but hits the camera eye, laser gate controls, and the Imperial guards. The officer is the last of the guards to fall under the laser fire. Just as he is about to push the alarm system, Han rushes to the comlink system, which is screeching questions about what is going on. He quickly checks the computer readout.
We've got to find out which cell this princess of yours is in. Here it is. Cell 2187. You go get her. I'll hold him here.
Luke races down one of the cell corridors. Han speaks into the buzzing comlink.
Everything under control. Situation normal.
What happened?
Had a slight weapons malfunction, but everything's perfectly all right now. We're fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you. How are you?
We're sending a squad up.
Negative. We had a reactor leak here now. Give us a few minutes to lock it down. A large leak, very dangerous.
Who is this? What's your operating number?
Han blasts the comlink and it explodes.
We're in conversation anyway. Luke, we're going to have company.
Interior Death Star, cell row. Luke stops in front of one of the cells and blasts the door away with a laser pistol. When the smoke clears, Luke sees the dazzling young Princess Senator. She had been sleeping and is now looking at him with an uncomprehending look on her face. Luke is stunned by her incredible beauty and stands staring at her with his mouth hanging open.
Aren't you a little short to be a stormtrooper?
Luke takes off his helmet, coming out of it.
What? Oh, the uniform. I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
You're who?
I'm here to rescue you. I've got your R2 unit. I'm here with Ben Kenobi.
Ben Kenobi is here. Where is he?
Come on!
Interior Death Star conference room. Darth Vader paces the room as Governor Tarkin sits at the far end of the conference table.
Yeah. Talking Obi-Wan
Oh.
Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, what makes you think so?
Obi-Wan is here. The Force is with him.
Surely he must be dead by now.
Hey, escape is not his plan. It's not his plan. I must face him alone. Oh, wait. I may skip a couple lines. Don't underestimate the power of the Force.
The Jedi are extinct. Their fire has gone out of the universe. You, my friend, are all that's left of their religion.
There is a quiet buzz on the comm link.
Yes.
Governor Tarkin, we have an emergency alert in the detention block. A 23.
The princess, put all sections on alert.
Obi-Wan is here. The Force is with him.
If you're right, he must not be allowed to escape.
Escape is not his plan. I must face him alone.
Interior Death Star detention area hallway. An ominous buzzing sound is heard on the other side of the elevator door.
Chewie!
Chewbacca responds with a growling noise.
Get behind me! Get behind me!
A series of explosions knock a hole in the elevator door through which Imperial troops begin to emerge. Han and Chewie fire laser pistols at them through the smoke and flame. They turn and run down the cell hallway, meeting up with Luke and Leia rushing toward them.
Can't get out that way.
Looks like you've managed to cut off our only escape route.
Maybe you like it back in your cell, Your Highness.
Luke takes a small comm link transmitter from his belt as they continue to exchange fire with stormtroopers making their way down the corridor.
C-3PO! C-3PO!
Yes, sir.
Look, we've been cut off. Is there any way any way out of the cell bay? What was that? I didn't copy.
Interior Death Star main bay gantry control tower. 3PO paces the control center as little R2 beeps and whistles a blue streak. 3PO yells into the small comlink transmitter.
I said all systems have been alerted to your presence, sir. The main entrance seems to be the only way in or out. All other information on your level is restricted.
Someone begins banging on the door.
Open up in there.
Oh, no.
Interior Death Star detention corridor. Luke and Leia crouch together in an alcove for protection as they continue to exchange fire with troops. Han and Chewbacca they're barely able to keep the stormtroopers at bay at the far end of the hallway. The laser fire is very intense and smoke fills the narrow cell corridor.
There isn't another way out.
Can't hold them off forever. Now what?
This is some rescue. You came here and didn't have a plan for getting out?
He's the brain, sweetheart.
Luke manages a sheepish grin and shrugs his shoulders.
Well, I didn't.
The princess grabs Luke's gun and fires at a small grate in the wall next to them, next to Han, almost frying him.
What the hell are you doing?
Somebody's got to save our skins. Into the garbage chute, flyboys.
She jumps through the narrow opening as Han and Chewbacca look on in amazement. Chewbacca sniffs the garbage chute and says something.
Get in there, Furio. I don't care what you smell. Get in there and don't worry about it.
Han gives him a kick and the Wookiee disappears into the tiny opening. Luke and Han continue firing as they work their way toward the opening.
Wonderful girl. Either I'm going to kill her or I'm beginning to like her. Get in there.
Luke ducks laser fire as he jumps into the darkness. Han fires off a couple of quick blasts, creating a smoky cover, then slides into the chute himself and is gone. Interior Death Star garbage room. Han tumbles into the large room filled with garbage and muck. Luke is already stumbling around looking for an exit. He finds a small hatchway and struggles to get it open. It won't budge.
Oh, the garbage chute was a really wonderful idea. What an incredible smell you've discovered. Let's get out of here. Get away from there.
No, wait!
Han draws his laser pistol and fires at the hatch. The laser bolt ricochets wildly around the metal room. And everyone dives from cover into the garbage as the bolt explodes almost on top of them. Leia climbs out of the garbage with a rather grim look on her face.
Will you forget it? I already tried it. It's magnetically sealed.
Put that thing away. You're going to get us all killed.
Absolutely, Your Worship. Look, I had everything under control until you let us down here. You know, it's not going to take them long to figure out what happened to us.
It could be worse.
A loud, horrible, inhuman moan works its way up from the musky depths. Chewbacca lets out a terrified howl and begins to back away. Han and Luke stand fast with their laser pistols drawn. The Wookiee is cowering near one of the walls.
Worse.
There's something alive in here.
That's your imagination.
Look, someone just moved past my leg. Look, did you see that?
What?
Help!
Suddenly, Luke is yanked under the garbage.
Luke! Luke! Luke!
Solo tries to get to Luke. Luke surfaces with a gasp of air and thrashing of limbs. A membrane tentacle is wrapped around by his throat.
Luke!
Leia extends a long pipe toward him.
Luke, grab hold of this.
Blast it, will you? My gun's jammed!
Where?
Anywhere!
Solo fires his gun downward. Luke is pulled back into the muck by the slimy tentacle.
Luke! Luke!
Suddenly, the walls of the garbage receptacle shudder and move in a couple of inches. Then everything is deathly quiet. Han and Leia give each other a worried look as Chewbacca howls in the corner. With a rush of bubbles and muck, Luke suddenly bobs to the surface.
Grab him!
Luke seems to be released by the thing.
What happened?
I don't know. It just let go of me and disappeared.
I got a very bad feeling about this.
Before anyone can say anything, the walls begin to rumble and edge toward the rebels.
The walls are moving!
Don't just stand there. Try to brace it with something.
They place poles and long metal beams between the closing walls, but they are simply snapped and bent as the giant trash masher rumbles on. The situation doesn't look too good.
Wait a minute!
Luke pulls out his comlink.
3PO! Coming 3PO! 3PO! Where could he be?
Interior Death Star main gantry command office, a soft buzzer, and the muted voice of Luke calling out for C-3PO can be heard on 3PO's hand comlink, which is sitting on the deserted computer console. R2 and 3PO are nowhere in sight. Suddenly, there is a great explosion, and the door of the control tower flies across the floor. 4 armed stormtroopers enter the chamber.
Take over. See to him. Look there.
A trooper pushes a button, and the supply cabinet door slides open. C-3PO and R2-D2 are inside. R2 follows his bronze companion out into the office.
They're madmen. They're heading for the prison level. If you hurry, you might catch them.
Follow me. You stand guard.
The troops hustle off down the hallway, leaving a guard to watch over the command office.
Come on.
The guard aims a blaster at them.
Oh, all this excitement has overrun the circuits of my counterpart here. If you don't mind, I'd like to take him to maintenance.
All right.
The guard nods, and 3PO, with little R2 in tow, hurries out the door. Interior Death Star garbage room. As the walls rumble closed, the room gets smaller and smaller. Chewie is whining and trying to hold the wall back with his giant paws. Han is leaning back against the other wall. Garbage is snapping and popping. Luke is trying to reach 3PO.
3PO! Come in, 3PO! 3PO!
Han and Leia try to brace the contracting walls with a pole. Leia begins to sink into the trash.
Get to the top.
I can't.
Where could he be? 3PO! 3PO, will you come in?
Interior Death Star, main forward bay, service panel.
They aren't here. Something must have happened to them. See if they've been captured.
Little R2 carefully plugs his claw arm into a new wall socket, and a complex array of electronic sounds spew from the tiny robot.
Hurry.
Interior Death Star garbage room. The walls are only feet apart. Leia and Han are braced against the walls. The princess is frightened. They look at each other. Leia reaches out and takes Han's hand, and she holds it tightly. She's terrified and suddenly groans as she feels the first crushing pressure against her body.
One thing's for sure, we're all going to be a lot thinner. Get on top of it.
I'm trying.
Interior Death Star main forward bay service panel.
Thank goodness they haven't found them. Where could they be?
R2 frantically beeps something to C-3PO.
Use the comlink. Oh my, I forgot I turned it off.
Interior Death Star garbage room. Meanwhile, Luke is lying on his side, trying to keep his head above the rising ooze. Luke's comlink begins to buzz, and he rips it off his belt. Interior Death Star main forward bay service panel. Muffled sound of Luke's voice over the comlink can be heard, but not distinctly.
Are you there, sir?
Garbage room.
3PO!
Service panel.
We've had some problems.
Will you shut up and listen to me? Look, shut down all garbage masters on the detention level, will you? Do you copy?
Garbage room.
Shut down all garbage masters on the detention level.
Service panel.
Shut down all garbage masters on the detention level.
No, shut them all down. Hurry.
3PO holds his head in agony as he hears the incredible screaming and hollering from Luke's comlink.
Listen to them. They're dying, R2. Curse my metal body. I wasn't fast enough. It's all my fault. My poor master.
3PO. We're all right.
Interior Death Star garbage room. The screaming and hollering is the sound of joyous relief. The walls have stopped moving. Han, Chewie, and Leia embrace in the background.
We're all right. You did great.
Luke moves to the pressure-sensitive hatch, looking for a number.
Hey, open the pressure maintenance hatch on unit number... Where are we?
Service panel.
326827.
Interior Death Star tractor beam, power generator trench. Ben enters a humming service trench that powers the huge tractor beam. The trench seems to be 100 miles deep. The clacking sound of huge switching devices can be heard. The old Jedi and he makes his way along a narrow ledge leading to a control panel that connects to two large cables. He carefully makes several adjustments in the computer terminal, and several lights on board go from red to blue. Interior Death Star unused hallway. The group exits the garbage room into a dusty, unused hallway. Han and Luke remove the trooper suits and strap on the blaster belts.
If we could just avoid any more female advice, we ought to be able to get out of here.
Luke smiles and scratches his head as he takes a blaster from Solo.
Well, let's get moving.
Chewie begins growling and points to the hatch to the garbage room as he runs away and then stops howling.
Where are you going?
The Dia Nogu bangs against the hatch, and a long, slimy tentacle works its way out of the doorway, searching for a victim. Han aims his pistol.
No, wait, they'll hear.
Han fires at the doorway. The noise of the blast echoes relentlessly through the empty passageway. Luke simply shakes his head in disgust.
Come here, you big coward.
Chewie shakes his head no.
Chewie, come here.
Listen, I don't know who you are or where you came from, but from now on you do as I tell you, okay?
Han is stunned at the command of the petite young girl.
Look, your worshipfulness, let's get one thing straight. I take orders from one person, me.
It's a wonder you're still alive. Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Han watches her start away. He looks at Luke.
No reward is worth this.
They follow her, moving swiftly down the deserted corridor. Interior Death Star power trench. Suddenly, a door behind Ben slides open and a detachment of stormtroopers marches to the power trench. Ben instantly slips into the shadows as an officer moves to within a few feet of him. Secure this area until the alert is canceled.
Give me regular reports.
All but two of the stormtroopers leave.
You know what's going on?
Maybe it's another drill.
Ben moves around the tractor beam, watching the stormtroopers as they turn their backs to him. Ben gestures with his hand toward them. as the troops think they hear something in the other hallway. With the help of the Force, Ben deftly slips past the troopers and into the main hallway.
What was that?
Oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it.
Interior Death Star hallway. Luke, Han, Chewbacca, and Leia run down an empty hallway and stop before a bay window overlooking the pirate ship. Troopers are milling about the ship. Luke takes out his pocket, the comlink.
There she is.
3PO, do you copy?
For the moment, we're in the main hangar across from the ship.
We're right above you. Stand by.
Han is watching the dozen or so troops moving in and out of the pirate ship. Leia moves towards Han, touches his arm, and points out the window to the ship.
You came in that thing? You're braver than I thought.
Nice. Come on.
Han gives her a dirty look, and they start off down the hallway. They round a corner and run right into 20 Imperial stormtroopers heading toward them. Both groups are taken by surprise and stop in their tracks.
It's them. Blast them.
Before even thinking, Han draws his laser pistol and charges the group, firing. His blaster knocks one of the stormtroopers into the air. Chewie follows his captain down the corridor, stepping over the fallen trooper on the floor.
Get back to the ship.
Where are you going? Come back.
Han has already rounded a corner and does not hear.
Well, he certainly has courage.
What good will he do? Will it do us? He gets so killed. Come on.
Luke is furious but doesn't have time to think about it, for muted alarms begin to go off down the hangar deck. Luke and Leia start off toward the starship hangar. Interior Death Star, sub-hallway. Han chases the stormtroopers down along sub-hallway. He is yelling and brandishing his laser pistol. The troops reach a dead end and are forced to turn and fight. Han stops a few feet from them and assumes a defensive position. The troops begin to raise their laser guns. Soon, all 10 troopers are moving into an attack position in front of the Long Star pirate. Han's determined look begins to fade as the troops begin to advance. Solo jumps backward as they fire at him. Interior Death Star sub-hallway. Chewbacca runs down the sub-hallway in a last-ditch attempt to save his bold captain. Suddenly, he hears the firing of laser guns and yelling around the corner, shoots Han, pirate extraordinaire, running for his life, followed by a host of furious stormtroopers. Chewbacca turns and starts running the other way also. Interior Death Star sub-hallway. Luke fires his laser pistol wildly as he and Leia rush down a narrow sub-hallway chased by several stormtroopers, then quickly reach the end of the sub-hallway and they race through an open hatchway. Interior central core shaft. Luke and Leia race through the hatch onto a narrow bridge that spans a huge, deep shaft that seems to go into infinity. The bridge has been retracted into the wall of the shaft, and Luke almost rushes into the abyss. He loses his balance off the end of the bridge as Leia behind him takes hold of his arm and pulls him back.
I think we took a wrong turn.
Blasts from the stormtroopers' laser guns explode nearby, reminding them of the oncoming danger. Luke fires back at the advancing troops. Leia reaches over and hits a switch that pops the hatch door shut with a resounding boom, leaving him precariously perched on a short piece of bridge overhang. Laser fire from the troopers continued to hit the steel door.
There's no lock.
Luke blasts the controls with his laser pistol.
That'll hold it for a while.
Quick, we've got to get across. Find the controls that extends the bridge.
Oh, I think I just blasted it.
Luke looks at the blasted bridge control while the stormtroopers on the opposite side of the bridge begin making ominous drilling and pounding noises.
They're coming through.
Luke notices something on his stormtrooper belt when laser fire hits the wall behind him. Luke aims his laser pistol at a stormtrooper perched on a higher bridge overhang across the abyss from them. They exchange fire. 2 more troops appear on another overhang, also firing. A trooper is hit and grabs at his chest. Another trooper standing on the bridge overhang is hit by Luke's laser fire and plummets down the shaft. Troopers move back off the bridge. Luke hands the gun to Leia.
Here, hold this.
Luke pulls a thin nylon cable from his trooper utility belt. It has a grapple hook on it. A trooper appears on a bridge overhang and fires at Luke and Leia. As Luke works with the rope, Leia returns the laser volley. Another trooper appears and fires at them. As Leia returns his fire as well. Suddenly, the hatch door begins to open, revealing the feet of more troops.
Here they come.
Leia hits one of the stormtroopers on the bridge above, and he falls into the abyss. Luke tosses the rope across the gorge, and it wraps itself around an outcropping of pipes. He tugs on the rope to make sure it is secure, then grabs the princess in his arm. Leia looks at Luke, then kisses him quickly on the lips. Luke is very surprised.
For luck.
Luke pushes off, and they swing across the treacherous abyss to the corresponding hatchway on the opposite side. Just as Luke and Leia reach the far side of the canyon, the stormtroopers break the hatch and begin to fire at the escaping duo. Luke returns the fire before ducking into the tiny sub-hallway. Interior Death Star, narrow passageway. Ben hides in the shadows of the narrow passageway as several stormtroopers rush past him in the main hallway. He checks to make sure they're gone, then runs down the hallway in the opposite direction. Darth Vader appears at the far end of the hallway and starts after the old Jedi. Main forward bay. 3PO looks around at the troops milling about the pirate ship empty ramp.
Where could they be?
R2, plugged into the computer socket, turns his dome left and right, beeping a response. Interior Death Star corridor, blast shields, door. Han and Chewbacca run down a long corridor with several troopers hot on their trail.
Close the blast doors.
At the end of the hallway, blast doors begin to close in front of them. The young star pilot and his furry companion race past the huge doors just as they are closing and manage to get off a couple of laser blasts at the pursuing troops before the door slams shut.
Open the blast doors. Open the blast doors.
Interior Death Star hallway leading to main forward bay. Ben hurries along one of the tunnels leading the hangar where the pirate ship waits. Just before he reaches the hangar, Darth Vader steps into view at the end of the tunnel, not 10 feet away. Vader lights his saber. Ben also ignites his and steps slowly forward.
I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again. At last, the circle is now complete.
Ben Kenobi moves with elegant ease into a classical offensive position. The fearsome Dark Knight takes a defensive stance.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
Only a master of evil, Darth.
The two galactic warriors stand perfectly still for a few moments, sizing each other up and waiting for the right moment. Ben seems to be under increasing pressure and the strain as if an invisible weight were being placed upon him. He shakes his head and blinking tries to clear his eyes. Ben makes a sudden lunge at the huge warrior but is checked by a lightsaber movement of the Sith. A masterful slash stroke by Vader is blocked by the old Jedi. Another of the Jedi's blows is blocked, then countered. Ben moves around the Dark Lord and starts backing into the massive starship hangar. The two powerful warriors stand motionless for a moment with laser swords locked in midair, creating a low buzzing sound.
Your powers are weak, old man.
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Their lightsabers continue to meet in combat. Main forward bay. Han Solo and Chewbacca, their weapons in hand, lean back against the wall, surveying the forward bay, watching the Imperial stormtroopers make their rounds of the hangar.
Didn't we just leave this party?
Chewbacca growls a reply as Luke and the princess join them.
What kept you?
We ran into some old friends.
The ship all right?
Seems okay, if we can get to it. Just hope the old man got the tractor beam out of commission.
Interior Death Star hallway, Vader and Ben Kenobi continue their powerful duel. As they hit their lightsabers together, lightning flashes on impact. Troopers look on in interest as the old Jedi and Dark Lord of the Sith fight. Suddenly, Luke spots the battle from his group's vantage point.
Look!
Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie look up and see Ben and Vader emerging from the hallways at the far side of the docking bay. 3PO and R2-D2 are in the center of the Death Star's Imperial docking bay.
Come on, R2, we're going.
3PO ducks out of sight as the 7 stormtroopers who were guarding the starship rush past them, heading towards Ben and the Sith Knight. He pulls on R2. Interior Death Star hallway, Solo, Chewie, Luke, and Leia tensely watch the duel. The troops rush toward the battling knights.
Now's our chance. Go!
They start for the Millennium Falcon. Ben sees the troops charging toward him and realizes that he is trapped. Vader takes advantage of Ben's momentary distraction and brings his mighty lightsaber down on the old man. Ben manages to deflect the blow and swiftly turns around. The old Jedi Knight looks over his shoulder at Luke, lifts his sword from Vader's, then watches his opponent with a serene look on his face. Vader brings his sword down, cutting down old Ben in half. Ben's cloak falls to the floor in 2 parts, but Ben is not in it. Vader, as puzzled as Ben's disappearance, he's puzzled. He pokes at the empty cloak. As the guards are distracted, the adventurers and the robots search the starship. Luke sees Ben cut in 2 and starts for him. He yells out,
No!
The stormtroopers turn toward Luke and begin firing at him. The robots are already moving up the ramp into the Millennium Falcon, while Luke, transfixed by anger and awe, returns the fire. Solo joins in the laser fire. Vader looks up, advances towards them as one of his troopers is struck down.
Come on!
Come on, Luke. It's too late.
Blast the door! Kid!
Luke fires his pistol at the door control panel and it explodes. The door begins to slide shut. 3 troopers charge forward, firing laser bolts as the door slides to a close behind them, shutting Vader and the other troops out of the docking bay. A stormtrooper lies dead at the feet of his onrushing compatriots. Luke starts for the advancing troops. As Solo and Leia move up the ramp into the pirate ship, he fires, hitting a stormtrooper who crumbles to the floor. Run, Luke, run. Luke looks around to see where the voice came from. He turns toward the pirate ship, ducking Imperial gunfire from the troops, and races into the ship. Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit. Han pulls back on the controls, and the ship begins to move. The dull thud of laser bolts bouncing off the outside of the ship as Chewie adjusts his controls.
I hope the old man got that tractor beam out of commission, or this is going to be a real short trip. Okay, hit it.
Chewbacca growls in agreement. Exterior Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon powers away from the Death Star docking bay, makes a spectacular turn, and disappears into the vastness of space. Interior Millennium Falcon central hold area. Luke, saddened by the loss of Obi-Wan Kenobi, stares off blankly as the robots look on. Leia puts a blanket around him protectively, and Luke turns and looks up at her. She sits down beside him. Millennium Falcon cockpit. Solo spots approaching enemies.
We're coming up on the enemy ships. Hold them off. Angle the deflector shields while I charge up the main guns.
Interior Millennium Falcon, central hold area. Luke looks downward sadly, shaking his head back and forth as the princess smiles comfortingly at him.
Can't believe he's gone.
R2-D2 beeps a reply.
There wasn't anything you could have done.
Han rushes into the hold area while Luke is sitting with the princess.
Come on, buddy. We're not out of this yet.
Interior Millennium Falcon, gun ports, cockpit. Solo climbs into his attack position in the topside gun port. Hold area. Luke gets up and moves out toward the gun port as Leia heads for the cockpit. Gun port, cockpit. Luke climbs down the ladder into the gun port cockpit, settling into one of the 2 main laser cannons mounted in large rotating turrets on either side of the ship. Solo's gun port. Han adjusts his headset as he sits before the controls of his laser cannon, then speaks into the attached microphone.
You in, kid? Okay, stay sharp.
Gun ports, cockpit. Chewbacca and Princess Leia search the heavens for attacking TIE fighters. The Wookiee pulls back on the speed controls as the ship bounces slightly. Solo's gun port. Computer graphic readouts form on Solo's target screen as Han reaches for the controls. Gunport cockpit. Luke sits in readiness for the attack, his hands on the laser cannon's control button. Chewbacca spots the enemy ships and barks.
Here they come.
Cockpit POV point of view. The Imperial TIE fighters move towards the Millennium Falcon, one each veering to the left and right off of the pirate ship. Interior TIE fighter cockpit. Stars whip past behind the Imperial pilot as he adjusts his maneuvering joystick. Exterior Millennium Falcon in space. The TIE fighter races past the Falcon, firing laser beams as it passes. Interior Millennium Falcon hold area. 3PO is seated in the hold area next to R2-D2. The pirate ship bounces and vibrates as the power goes out in the room and then comes back on. Cockpit gun ports. A TIE fighter maneuvers in front of Han, who follows it and fires at it with a laser cannon. Luke does likewise as the fighter streaks into view. The ship has suffered a minor hit and bounces slightly. Exterior space. 2 TIE fighters dive down toward the pirate ship. Interior Millennium Falcon gun ports. Luke fires at an unseen fighter.
They're coming in too fast!
Exterior space. Millennium Falcon TIE fighters pan with pirate ship as 2 TIE fighters charge through the background. Laser bolts streak from all the craft. Interior Millennium Falcon Chewbacca. The ship shudders as a laser bolt hits very close to the cockpit. The Wookiee chatters something to Leia. Exterior TIE fighter space. Pull shot of TIE fighter as it moves fast through the frame, firing on the pirate starship. TIE fighters are firing a barrage of laser beams at the pirate ship. Interior Millennium Falcon main passageway. A laser bolt streaks into the side of the pirate ship. The ship lurches violently, throwing poor 3PO into a cabinet full of small computer chips.
Oh!
Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit gun ports. Leia watches the computer readout as Chewbacca manipulates the ship's controls.
We've lost lateral controls.
Don't worry, she'll hold together.
As enemy bolt hits the pirate ship control panel, causing it to blow out in a shower of sparks.
Hear me, baby? Hold together.
R2-D2 advances towards the sparking control panel, dousing the Inferno by spraying it with fire retardant, beeping all the while. Interior Millennium Falcon gunport. He swivels in his gun mount, following the TIE fighter with his laser cannon. Solo aims his laser cannon at the enemy fighter. Exterior space. A TIE fighter streaks in front of the starship. Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit. Leia watches the TIE fighter ship. A TIE fighter heads right for the pirate ship, then zooms overhead. Luke follows the TIE fighter across his field of view, firing laser beams from his cannon. A TIE fighter dives past the pirate ship. Luke fires at a TIE fighter. At his port, Han follows a fighter in his sights, releasing the blast laser fire. He connects, and the fighter explodes into a fiery duet of dust. Han laughs victoriously. 2 TIE fighters move toward and over the Millennium Falcon, unleashing a barrage of laser bolts at the ship. Interior Millennium Falcon gun ports. Another TIE fighter moves in on the pirate ship, and Luke, smiling, fires the laser cannon at it, scoring spectacular direct hit.
I got him!
He turns. Han looks and gives Luke a victory wave, which Luke gleefully returns.
Great, kid. Don't get cocky.
Han turns back to his laser cannon. 2 more TIE fighters cross in front of the pirate ship. Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit. While Chewbacca manipulates the controls, Leia turns, looking over his shoulder out the ports.
There are still 2 more of them out there.
A TIE fighter moves up over the pirate ship, firing laser blast at it. Interior Millennium Falcon gun ports, Luke and Han look into their respective projected targeted screens. An Imperial fighter crosses Solo's port, and Han swivels in his chair, following it with blasts from his laser cannon. Another fighter crosses Luke's port, and he reacts in a like manner, the glow of his target screen lighting in his face. The TIE fighter zooms toward the pirate ship, firing destructive blasts at it. Luke fires a laser blast at the approaching enemy fighter, and it bursts into a spectacular explosion. Luke's projected screen gives a readout of the hit. The pirate ship bounces slightly as it is struck by enemy fire. The last of the attacking Imperial TIE fighters looms in, firing upon the Falcon. Solo swivels behind his cannon, his aim describing the arc of the TIE fighter. The fighter comes close, firing at the pirate ship, but a well-aimed blast from Solo's laser cannon hits the attacker, which blows up a small atomic shower of burning fragments.
That's it! We did it!
The princess jumps up and gives Chewie a congratulatory hug.
We did it!
Interior Millennium Falcon passageway. 3PO lies on the floor of the ship, completely tangled in the smoking, sparking wires.
Help! I think I'm melting. This is all your fault.
R2 turns his dome from side to side, beeping in response. Exterior space, Millennium Falcon. The victorious Millennium Falcon moves off majestically through space. Interior Death Star control room. Darth Vader strides into the control room, where Tarkin is watching the huge view screen. A sea of stars is before him.
Are they away?
They have just made the jump into hyperspace.
You're sure the homing beacon is secure aboard their ship? I'm taking an awful risk, Vader. This had better work.
Interior Millennium Falcon cockpit. Han removes his glove and, smiling, is at the controls of the ship. Chewie moves into the aft section to check the damage. Leia is seated near Han.
Not a bad bit of rescuing, huh? You know, sometimes I even amaze myself.
That doesn't sound too hard. Besides, they let us go. It's the only explanation for the ease of our escape.
Easy? You call that easy?
They're tracking us.
Not this ship, sister.
Frustrated, Leia shakes her head.
At least the information in R2 is still intact.
So important. What's he carrying?
The technical readouts of that battle station. I only hope that when the data is analyzed, a weakness can be found. It's not over yet.
It is for me, sister. Look, I ain't in this for your revolution, and I'm not in it for you, princess. I expect to be well paid. I'm in it for the money.
You needn't worry about your reward. If money is all that you love, then that's what you'll receive.
She angrily turns, and as she starts out of the cockpit, passes Luke coming in.
Your friend's quite a mercenary. I wonder if he really cares about anyone or anything.
I care.
Luke, shaking his head, sits in the co-pilot's seat. He and Han stare out at the vast blackness of space.
So, what do you think of her, Han?
Try not to, kid.
Good.
Still, she's got a lot of spirit. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think a princess and a guy like me?
No.
Luke says it with finality and looks away. Han smiles at young Luke jealously. Exterior space around fourth moon of Yavin. The battered pirate ship drifts into orbit around the planet Yavin and proceeds to one of its tiny green moons. Exterior fourth moon of Yavin. The pirate ship soars over the dense jungle. Exterior Masasi outpost. An alert guard, his laser gun in hand, scans the countryside. He sets the gun down and looks toward the temple, barely visible in the foliage. Exterior Masasi outpost, jungle temple. Rotting in a forest of gargantuan trees, an ancient temple lies shrouded in an eerie mist. The air is heavy with the fantastic cries of unimaginable creatures. Han, Luke, and the others are greeted by the rebel troops. Luke and the group ride into the massive temple on an armored military speeder. Interior Masasi main hangar deck. The military speeder stops in a huge spaceship hangar set up in the interior of the crumbling temple. Willard, the commander of the rebel forces, rushes up to the group and gives Leia a huge hug. Everyone is pleased to see her.
You're safe. We had feared the worst.
Willard composes himself, steps back, and bows formally.
When we heard about Alderaan, we were afraid that you were lost along with your father.
We don't have time for our sorrows, Commander. The battle station is surely tracking us here. It's the only explanation for the ease of our escape. You must use the information in this R2 unit to plan the attack. It's our only hope.
Exterior space. The surface of the Death Star ominously approaches the red planet Yavin. Interior Death Star control room. Grand Moff Tarkin and Lord Vader are interrupted in their discussion by the buzz of the comm link. Tarkin moves to answer the call.
Yes.
201 Death Star, intercom voice 201.
We are approaching the planet Yanvin. The rebel base is on a moon on the far side. We are preparing to orbit the planet.
Exterior Yavin jungle. A lone guard attends in a tower high above the Yavin landscape, surveying the countryside. A mist hangs over the jungle of twisted green. Interior Masasi war room briefing area. Dodonna stands before a large electronic wall display. Leia and several other senators are to one side of the giant readout. The low-ceilinged room is filled with star pilots, navigators, and a sprinkling of R2 type robots. Everyone is listening intently